Chapter 1630. And at this moment, Yiqing Luo's target was already the fourth blazing array core, which meant the last array core. As long as the last array core was destroyed, this spirit assimilation array would be completely destroyed. The three Dark Elders realized Yiqing Luo's thoughts and instantly felt a chill down their spines. They instinctively gathered together as they leaned towards Wolf Saint Technique's back. One elder's blood could only extinguish one array core. Yiqing Luo wanted to destroy the last array core. She had to randomly kill one of the three elders. The last array core would be destroyed. However, at the same time when they were nearing Wolf Saint Technique actually shifted his body, exposing the three of them completely in Yiqing Luo's field of vision. The Dark Elder's face turned black as he bellowed, "Wolf Saint Technique, what do you mean by this?" Wolf Saint Technique's sinister gaze swept past those three elders coldly, as though he didn't even have the intention to take a look at them, as he averted his gaze. Openly inviting her to destroy the array core? Was this Wolf Saint Technique's brain spoilt? Or, what kind of new trick was this? Wolf Saint Technique had planned for such a long time. It was to use the most open and above-board reason to take away all the students' souls, and then push the blame onto Ghost Martial Artist. How could he possibly allow her to destroy the spirit assimilation array? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she tried to use the same method, attempting to use the silver threads to sweep up another Dark Elder. But the moment the glower flame fan in her hands released its profound chi, her arm was slapped hard. A numb feeling spread throughout her arm. With a dong, the glower flame fan fell onto the ground. The moment the silver threads lost their owner's profound chi control, they retracted back into the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo swiftly retracted her arm as she held onto her numb arm. She glanced sideways as she looked at the source of the energy, which struck her arm earlier. In that instant his pupils dilated. That was Shiruoyu? Shiruoyu attacked her? No, not only Shiruoyu. Yiqing Luo saw that behind the handsome young man in front of her, those various academy students who were originally entangled with the dark forces were now swarming towards her direction like a swarm of bees. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's astonishment, Shiruoyu, who was right in front of her, had already raised his palm and struck towards Yiqing Luo's chest. Yiqing Luo speedily retreated out of Shiruoyu's attack range. He quickly scanned his surroundings. These students all had extremely strange expressions on their faces. His face was filled with killing intent, and his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. The footsteps coming towards her were extremely stiff. He was completely different from the students who were fighting against the dark forces just now. They seemed to be controlled by something. Control? Was it the mysterious Yin Qi? While Yiqing Luo was swiftly evading those students' attacks, she grabbed the nearest student and locked his lower jaw. When his eyes met the murderous intent in the eyes, he didn't see any aura of mysterious Yin energy in those eyes. Not the mysterious Yin Qi. Could it be? What kind of curse did those elders use? This thought flashed past her mind, and Yiqing Luo immediately rejected it. Impossible. The spell that controlled the consciousness of more than 1,000 students required at least 2 hours to cast. Just a moment ago, these students were still trembling with the forces of darkness. The next moment they turned into this state. Moreover, it was under the situation where she didn't know anything and was being controlled. It couldn't be the control of the spell. Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, you didn't expect this, right? Look at you who values relationships and loyalty. Will you choose to kill these students who have nothing to do with you, or keep on escaping? Chapter 1631. Yiqing Luo's expression darkened. What was going on? How could all these students be possessed in an instant? When did the underground forces do this? Qing Luo, look at the sky. Suddenly, Long Yinzhan's voice sounded from outside the crowd. Yiqing Luo then discovered that Devil Class's students were all outside the encirclement of those controlled students. There were more than 50 of them, and they all looked normal. Clearly it wasn't being controlled. The other 1,000 or so students were all under their control. Only the students of Devil Class still maintained their own consciousness. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she followed Long Yunzhan's words and raised her head towards the sky. He took a look. Yi Qing Luo's expression instantly turned steely green. In the sky, a huge creature spread its wings. Its feathers glowed brightly, as if they were coated in a multicolored light. It kept circling in the sky. Scarlet Flame. That was Scarlet Flame. Why did it come out of the pet space? She did not summon Crimson Flame at all. Yi Qing Luo frowned and shouted towards the sky. Qi Yan, come back! Clang clang. A sharp and loud cry came from Qi Yan's mouth. However, the Scarlet Flame was still circling in the sky and had no intention of returning to Yi Qing Luo's side. Scarlet Flame flapped its wings. A bright flame was released from the fiery wings. That ball of flame, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, pervaded the area within the boundary. In his mind, Old Man Song's panicked voice sounded. Not good. Lass, that's a raging flame. Raging flames? What was that? The core skill of the vermilion bird. Old Man Song solemnly said. The vermilion bird is a fire attribute sacred beast. The flames it releases are divided into light and dark. The flames of light have the effect of purifying one's heart and burning away all evil. As for the flames of darkness, they pollute people's hearts and achieve the ability to control them. Controlling people's hearts? These 4 words made Yi Qing Luo's expression change drastically. You mean, the changes in these students are due to the control of raging flames? Old Man Song muttered to himself for a moment. You see for yourself. Raging flames were already burning around the students of the various academies. Scorching heat. But it would not burn people's skin. However, when the flames landed on the students, they were stunned. The murderous aura and killing intent on the students also became more and more intense. The hearts of these students had already been completely polluted by the blazing flames of Qi Yan. Why did it want to do this? Yi Qing Luo's face turned pale. Qi Yan had already made a contract with it. Why would he do such a thing? I'm afraid. Her contract with you is to reduce your suspicions. Old Man Song's voice was a bit gloomy, with Chi-Chi's feelings for Vermilion Bird as a precedent. And then there was the Vermilion Bird's contract with him. No one would doubt the Vermilion Bird. That was why the Vermilion Bird was able to. He used the flames to pollute the hearts of the students of the various academies, making the students from the various academies to be manipulated by the Vermilion Bird, to lay their hands on Yi Qing Luo. The Vermilion Bird Danger Ground wouldn't do something like this for no reason. What was the Vermilion Bird's goal? Suddenly, a shrill scream rang out from outside the crowd. A figure was sent flying out. Tong Ziqing fell to the ground in pain and spat out a mouthful of blood. Who is it? Long Yunzhan and Yin Xiaoyi's vigilant voices rang. Each of them looked around the surroundings anxiously. Chapter 1632. When the Devil class students heard that, they immediately raised their heads and looked towards the sky. Yin Xiaoyi helped the injured Tong Ziqing up and looked towards the sky. What happened to Qi Yan? Did Qi Yan attack Ziqing? No. Kitty Lee's starry eyes stared at Qi Yan vigilantly. There's someone on Qi Yan's back. On Qi Yan's back? Wasn't Qi Yan at Sundra, and wouldn't let anyone get on its back? At the foundation, when they were crossing the sea of fire, it was half threatening and half coaxing that made Qi Yan carry someone. Now there was someone who could stand on Qi Yan's back. Devil class students narrowed their eyes and looked carefully at Qi Yan's back. As expected, they saw a straight figure standing on Qi Yan's back. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly, and after she saw the figure on Qi Yan's back, her pupils constricted. At this moment, Wolf Saint Law and the 3 elders who had been watching by the side, when they saw the person, their faces revealed an ecstatic expression. Wolf Saint Law's joy was still reserved, but those 3 elders seemed to have seen hope saw the light. Directly passing Wolf Saint Law, he rushed towards the person on Qi Yan's back and respectfully knelt on the ground. Pharaoh he? This person was indeed one of the 4 great pharaohs from the dark forces? Wolf Saint Law had many dark guardians and dark elders. Among the dark guardians, there were only 4 Saint Law, divided into 4 parts. Among the dark elders, there were 4 pharaohs, divided into 4 parts. to become the pharaohs among the elders. This person must be an opponent not to be underestimated. And he was a pharaoh who knew a wide variety of dark spells. In conclusion, dealing with this pharaoh was not as easy as dealing with the elders. Looking at the expressions of these three elders, it was as if they had seen their own parents. Looking at Wolf St. Law's relieved look, Yi Qing Luo was almost 100% sure of the guess in her heart. The person on Qi Yan's back looked down at everything from a high vantage point. That gaze seemed to be looking at the ants on the ground, high and mighty, as if he was above everyone's head. Immediately, that person leaped from Qi Yan's back onto the ground. Only then did everyone clearly see the appearance of the person before them. Gender, male. He was about 40 years old. It was very high above sea level, but its body was thin. His face looked as if it had been sucked dry. Pieces of flesh were sunken in, leaving only a layer of skin wrapped around his bones. This face was already scary enough. But the most horrifying thing was the pair of sinister eyes on that skinny face. Dark and cold, it seemed to be filled with endless malice. With just a glance, one would feel as if they were being stared at by a venomous snake. Even if it was Yi Qing Luo, she was also terrified by that pair of eyes. Pharaoh He Yu, you're finally here. The soul assimilating formation won't be able to hold on much longer. An elder knelt and crawled towards the man's leg. Pharaoh Crane glanced at the person at his feet. Those terrifying eyes were devoid of any emotion. The elder took a step back in shock. But he didn't have the time to move. The elder's body suddenly trembled violently. Soon after, a loud bang was heard. The elder exploded in front of everyone's eyes. Blood gushed out. Flesh splattered. It crashed onto the barrier that Pharaoh He had conjured. It didn't touch Pharaoh He's body. The voices of agreement from the other two elders were immediately stuck in their throats. One by one, they curled up on the spot. Chapter 1633. This scene fell into the eyes of the Devil Class's students. The Devil Class's students couldn't help, but felt their scalps go numb. This Pharaoh He killed people without saying a word. The people who were killed were his own people. It could be seen that this Pharaoh He totally didn't care about human lives. What made everyone's heart palpitate was none of them saw when Pharaoh He made his move. Because of Pharaoh He's appearance, those 1,000 over students stood stiffly on the spot as they stopped their attacks on Yi Qing Luo. Each and every one of the students were like a puppet without a soul. Without anyone controlling them, they wouldn't move at all. Yi Qing Luo's vision was fixated on Pharaoh He's every move. From earlier when Pharaoh He leaped down from the sky, it could be seen that Pharaoh He wasn't like the other elders, who only knew how to cast spells, but didn't have any martial prowess. Pharaoh He not only had a strong ability to cast spells, and his skills were not inferior to the Guardians. It looked like the reason why Qi Yan suddenly released the blazing flames to pollute the students' hearts. It was definitely related to this Pharaoh He. The profound yin qi on that Pharaoh He is very dense. Old Man Song said in a deep voice in her mind. Yi Qing Luo nodded. I felt it too. That profound yin qi on Pharaoh He. It was completely different from what she had sensed from the other members of the Dark Coalition. That profound yin qi on Pharaoh He was so dense that profound yin qi was emitted from his body, from his bones. Furthermore, Yi Qing Luo had a feeling. It was as if he was the one who created the mysterious yin qi. It made one inexplicably feel repulsed. Pharaoh He didn't even bother to take a look at Wolf Saint Dharma. His sinister eyes looked towards Yi Qing Luo. A strange sneer appeared on his skinny face. He lifted his feet and walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. That footwork was light, and his posture was leisurely. Imperceptibly, it released a strong pressure. Qing Luo. Long Yunjian seemed to have realized something as he anxiously rushed to Yi Qing Luo's side. But he was stopped by Yi Qing Luo's sharp cry from the metal. Don't come over. His target is me. Long Yunjian's footsteps halted. He's not weak. He's no ordinary elder. Yi Qing Luo's vision stared vigilantly at Pharaoh He. Don't alarm him first. While speaking, Pharaoh He had already walked in front of Yi Qing Luo. The mysterious yin qi that was rushing towards him. This made Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Looking at her tightly knitted eyebrows, Pharaoh Crane's lips curled into a cold smile. Curious, Pharaoh He's voice was extremely hoarse. When he spoke, it was like a sawtooth cutting her ear. Yiqing Luo knew what Pharaoh He was asking. She was curious as to why Qi Yen would listen to Pharaoh He. She had already connected with Qi Yen in her mind. The soul contract between her and Qi Yen was not lifted. However, she couldn't talk to Qi Yen. To be more precise, Qi Yen had completely shielded her aura. This Pharaoh greatly treasures rare talents like you. Pharaoh He's voice was filled with coldness, causing those who heard it to feel a chill down their spine. Yiqing Luo totally couldn't hear any hint of cherishing. This Pharaoh will let you die knowing why. As Pharaoh He said that, his vision shot towards Wolf Saint Dharma, who was standing not too far away, hugging a lady, as a sliver of disdain flashed past his eyes. Take it as your reward for injuring that trash into such a sorry state. Wolf Saint Dharma's body stiffened slightly. Chapter 1634. But in consideration of the lady in his arms. In the end, Wolf Saint Dharma suppressed his anger. Seeing Wolf Saint Magic compromise, the disdain in Pharaoh Crane's eyes deepened. Yiqing Luo looked at the atmosphere between the both of them. She could roughly guess that the relationship between the both of them wasn't harmonious. In Pharaoh Crane's mouth, Wolf Saint Magic was said to be trash. Looking at Wolf Saint Magic's reaction, if it wasn't for the fact that he was carrying Yiqing Qian, if it wasn't for the current situation where they couldn't fight amongst themselves, Wolf Saint Magic would probably pounce forward and fight to the death with Pharaoh Crane. The dark forces were divided into two categories. They were either protectors or elders. The interaction between these two groups was bound to be mutual comparison and belittling, absolutely unable to achieve peaceful coexistence and mutual support. This Saint Magic and Pharaoh, they were natural enemies. Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in her thoughts, Pharaoh Crane had already shifted his gaze back onto her. Did you think that the flame beast rampage in the flame nest was really caused by the dark forces? Pharaoh Crane's lips curled upwards as he gave a scornful sneer. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her heart trembled violently as her eyes were filled with astonishment. If this sentence was said by someone from the dark forces, she absolutely wouldn't believe it. But Pharaoh Crane's arrogance, he totally didn't put these young students in his eyes. He couldn't be bothered to lie to her. And the meaning of Pharaoh Crane's words, which meant, the flame beast rampage in the foundation ground wasn't because of the dark forces, but to absorb the souls of those cultivators who came because of the prophecy of the divine object's descent. But, because the scarlet flame's raging flames had tainted the consciousness of those flame beasts, which caused those flame beasts who would never hurt anyone if they didn't touch the heart meridian, to rampage. Indeed, at that time, when she was sucked into the foundation ground by that strong whirlwind, she didn't encounter the flame beast's attacks. But when she followed Chi-Chi's guidance and found Vermilion Bird, the flame beast started to appear. So, right from the start, Vermilion Bird was acting in front of her? Vermilion Bird wanted to make use of the flame beasts to let her quickly accept its existence? Since Vermilion Bird was helping the dark forces and stood on the dark forces' side, why did it forcefully form a soul contract with her? Little girl, you're really smart. You figured it out so quickly? Pharaoh He's disdainful gaze swept past Yiqing Luo and immediately looked towards the scarlet flame on the horizon. He waved his hand. Scarlet flame immediately stopped circling and flew toward Pharaoh He. As he approached Pharaoh He obediently stood beside him. The phoenix feathers that were overflowing with light and vibrant colors had an elegant and noble form. However, it was filled with a chill that made one shiver in fear. When Qi Yan's blood-red pupils, which were filled with raging flames, met Yiqing Luo's gaze, Yiqing Luo didn't see any trace of emotion in its eyes. He wasn't as arrogant as he was when they first met. He was no longer as rude and domineering as he was when they first met. He was as still as water, as if he had lost all his thoughts. It was just like, that's right. It was like a puppet that had lost its soul. He was the same as the students from the other academies. Even though his body was moving, however, he could not see any soul in his eyes. It's you, Yiqing Luo reacted. You're the one who used your dark forces curse to control Qi Yan. Ha ha ha. Pharaoh, he laughed out loud. Little lass, you're really smart. You're getting more and more in my eyes. What he meant was that Yi Qing Luo's guess was right. Qi Yan listened to Pharaoh He's command. Chapter 1635. In the heart meridian zone of the foundation, Qi Yan had already been controlled by Pharaoh He's curse. Then, why would Qi Yan choose to form a contract with her? And it was a soul contract. One must know that Vermilion Bird was one of the 4 sacred beasts. Even Pharaoh, he should also want to get Vermilion Bird. What was his motive for letting Vermilion Bird form a contract with her? Little lass, do you want to save those people whose minds have been corrupted by the blazing flames? Pharaoh, he revealed a smile. Yi Qing Luo pressed her lips together vigilantly. Pharaoh, he gave a low laugh. If you want to save those whose minds have been corrupted by the blazing flames, you only need to kill Vermilion Bird. The dark flames brought by Vermilion Bird will be removed. Yi Qing Luo frowned. Indeed, this Pharaoh, he was just teasing her. The people from the dark forces had some understanding of her character. They knew that she would absolutely not kill Vermilion Bird for her own survival, or for those students. Let's not talk about whether she had the ability to kill Vermilion Bird. Even if she did, she would absolutely not do it. Vermilion Bird was her contracted battle pet, and also Chi-Chi's friend. If she killed Vermilion Bird, where would Chi-Chi be? Can't bear to. Pharaoh, he gave a weird laugh as his slender eyes squinted, adding a tinge of treacherous coldness. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips in silence. This Pharaoh he's character was extremely strange. There was really no normal person in the dark forces. Then, this Pharaoh shall be a good person to the end, and help you make a choice. Pharaoh he's sinister eyes were suddenly covered with a circle of black profound yin qi. Following that, he raised his hand and conjured a hand seal. A ray of black light charged straight towards Qi Yan. The scarlet flame let out a sharp cry. Suddenly it flapped its wings and flew into the sky. A ball of blazing flames once again covered the sky and earth as it fell down. Those originally motionless 1,000 over students. At the moment when the cry sounded, Li Tianlan's expression changed. They started to move. Like puppets whose strings had been pulled. They swarmed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction and surrounded her. Pharaoh He's sharp voice rang out amidst the crowd with a deep laugh. Little girl, since you don't want to kill the Vermilion Bird, then, kill these people who have been bewitched by the Vermilion Bird. Otherwise, the one who will die will be you. Yi Qing Luo retreated swiftly. A trace of hostility flashed across her charming eyes. Birds of a feather really do flock together. You people from the dark forces really like to use the same insidious methods. Before this, he had used the mysterious Yin energy to control Long Yunjian, forcing her to kill Long Yunjian to save the World Group brothers. Now he was using this method again. He wanted to force her to make a choice. Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. She absolutely. They would not allow the dark forces to control them. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath and looked in the direction of Qi Yan. She gripped the glowing fan in her hand tightly. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's actions, Old Crane laughed out loud. Looks like you still did. Before Pharaoh he could finish his words, suddenly, the entire area surrounded by the barrier shook violently. The cracked ground was collapsing into pieces. A powerful aura wantonly unfolded in the entire area. Roar, roar, roar. A tiger's roar which was filled with tension reverberated throughout the entire blazing lair. This roar penetrated the barrier as it spread in all directions of the blazing lair. Bam! A loud sound was heard. They saw a huge white tiger with a snow-white body, suddenly appearing in front of everyone's eyes, as it descended from the sky. Chapter 1636. Yi Qing Luo sneered. A cold-blooded, heartless, emotionless monster like you. How would you understand? After saying that, she looked at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi, go find Qi Yan and wake him up. Roar. Chi-Chi let out a tiger roar, and the huge creature soared towards the scarlet flames in the sky. After knowing that Qi Yan was being controlled by the secret art, Chi-Chi was so anxious that it couldn't wait to rush out to stop Qi Yan. The current Chi-Chi was filled with guilt. In the heart vein, it actually didn't notice anything wrong with Qi Yan. It actually didn't notice that Qi Yin was being controlled. If it had noticed earlier, Qi Yin was very likely. Then it wouldn't be called the dark forces, a tool to deal with its master. It didn't believe that Qi Yin would really lose his nature. That arrogant and extremely arrogant Qi Yin. He would absolutely not be willing to be controlled by others. Qi rushed to the front of Qi Yin, but before it could get in contact with Qi Yin opened its mouth and spat out a blazing flame at Qi. Qi evaded in time, but its fur was still grazed by the fire. Ha ha ha. There's no power in this world that can break my secret art. Even a sacred beast is the same. Pharaoh, he laughed loudly, extremely confident in his curse. A young lass, whose hair hadn't even grown out. His lord was actually so fearful of her. That group of guardians from the dark forces were really becoming more and more useless. They actually fell into the hands of this young lass time and time again. Pharaoh, he looked at the disheveled wolf Saint Law with disdain and snorted coldly. This wolf Saint Law was usually extremely high profile in the dark forces. It could be said that even in front of his lord, he was always sloppy and didn't give any face to anyone. But now, he was in such a dire state that he had to seek help from him. After today's mission was completed, all the credit belonged to his Pharaoh's forces. His status in the Pharaoh's forces could surpass the status of the Saint Law. The status of an elder could also surpass the status of a guardian. With this thought in mind, the complacent smile on Pharaoh's face grew thicker. It deeply hurt Wolf Saint Law's eyes. He resisted the disdainful gaze that Pharaoh shot at him. Between his brows, there was a sinister chill. The two of them looked calm, but each had their own thoughts. Pharaoh's appearance gave the remaining two elders some room to breathe a sigh of relief. They immediately found a safe place and continued to cast spells to ensure that the soul-assimilating array would not be destroyed. Yiqing Luo was surrounded by those 1,000 over students. He couldn't hurt them, so he could only dodge. He could only control his strength and knock them out. He had no way of finding Pharaoh Crane. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Pharaoh also began to participate in the embroidery soul assimilation formation. 3 of the soul assimilating array's fiery eyes had already been destroyed. The only remaining eye of the formation. It supported the entire soul assimilation array. Moreover, Pharaoh's incantation and mental strength were things that these elders could not compare to. But within a short period of time, the damaged array which was destroyed by Yiqing Luo had already been restored. The speed at which Pharaoh repaired the spirit assimilating array made Yiqing Luo shocked. She had spent so much time to destroy 3 formation cores. However, it was easily repaired by Pharaoh Crane. If he didn't get rid of Pharaoh, once the soul assimilating array was formed, all of them would die here. Furthermore, his soul had been devoured, and he would never be able to reincarnate. The last formation core flame. It must be exterminated. Yiqing Luo's gaze suddenly turned cold as she raised her leg, sending the wave of students who were surrounding her flying away. Chapter 1637. Pharaoh noticed Yiqing Luo's actions as his eyes were filled with disdain. Overestimating yourself. Since you can't wait to send yourself to death, I shall grant you your wish. Pharaoh's fingers formed a hand seal as he muttered. Following that, a ball of black flame suddenly sprang up on his fingertips. Dense mysterious yin qi danced at the tip of his finger. Swoosh! The mysterious yin qi, which looked like a burning flame, suddenly formed a huge coiling dragon on top of the spell. The huge black dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws towards Yiqing Luo's face. No wonder he's a Pharaoh-level character from the dark forces. He can even use offensive spells with ease. Old Man Song saw the huge dragon formed by the profound yin qi through Yiqing Luo's eyes, and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Offensive spells? Yiqing Luo evaded the huge dragon's attack, as she looked at it puzzledly. Offensive spells are to use one's own mental power to combine with sinister spells to summon something with battle ability, to help oneself win a beautiful battle. Old Man Song explained. Like now. The dark spell that Pharaoh is casting is to summon the huge dragon for him to attack. Yiqing Luo listened to his explanation. She bent her body and evaded the huge dragon's attack, which was about to swallow her up. Her footsteps also moved quickly. You're not joking, are you? Summoning a huge dragon and using it to attack the enemy? Wasn't this a summoner summoning a little divine dragon? Moreover, this wasn't a real dragon. It was a dragon formed by the profounding qi. No matter how she fought it, it wouldn't die. Yiqing Luo was depressed. Heavens must be playing a trick on her. Your target is the two elders behind him. As long as you get the blood of one of them and destroy the last array, the rest will be much easier. Old Man Song reminded. Easy to say, this pharaoh he won't give me a chance to get close. Yiqing Luo frowned. This pharaoh he's ability is not as good as you. Old Man Song pondered for a moment. He's only relying on casting a curse to create pressure on you. As long as you can think of a way to stop him from casting the curse, you can absolutely use his blood to destroy the last array. Even if it's to stop him from casting the spell, it's still an extremely difficult task. Yiqing Luo looked at the huge dragon in front of her, whose attacks were getting more and more ferocious, as she was already feeling frustrated from hiding. This huge dragon of profounding energy had been protecting Pharaoh He all this time. Even approaching Pharaoh Crane was a problem for her. Not to mention stopping Pharaoh Crane from casting the curse. Unless, Yiqing Luo's eyes sparkled with a sliver of brilliance. If he couldn't do it openly, then he could do it in the dark. To deal with such a despicable and shameless opponent, naturally, he had to use extreme measures. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she looked at the giant dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. His figure suddenly swayed. With the naked eye, one could only see a white skirt fluttering in the wind, like a gorgeous flower blooming. Immediately after, a feather fan that flickered with a demonic and mysterious light appeared, carrying with it an extremely dense and powerful force. It directly blasted that huge dragon into pieces. Pharaoh He was immensely pleased with himself for using the dark curse to summon the huge dragon. That huge dragon was actually defeated by Yiqing Luo's counterattack. And because of the curse's backlash, Pharaoh He's chest felt stuffy as his body tensed up and trembled. He abruptly retreated a few steps. His slender figure swayed slightly. He finally stabilized his footsteps. Chapter 1638. Pharaoh He's reaction was not bad. Just as Yiqing Luo's leg was about to hit him, his body moved backwards. Following that, he somersaulted sideways and avoided Yiqing Luo's leg. Although he wasn't injured, but Pharaoh He had suffered losses in Yiqing Luo's hands time and time again. That pride in his heart had suffered a serious blow. Immediately, his face sunk and his fingers formed a hand seal, as he recited a series of incantations, which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Yiqing Luo could only retreat when she saw this. Pharaoh He's incantations were many, sinister and poisonous. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to take the risk to test Pharaoh He's incantations. Moreover, only she was clear about it. She had just destroyed the huge dragon and attacked Pharaoh He. How much energy had she expended? Pharaoh He's incantations were not as powerful as what ordinary people imagined. Even if Pharaoh He was in the profound grade, he might not be Yiqing Luo's opponent. But Pharaoh He could rely on his offensive incantations to deplete Yiqing Luo's energy. Releasing the profound energy of the sky profound realm consumed 2/3 of his profound energy, and smashed the giant dragon into pieces in one fell swoop. Yiqing Luo was already feeling exhausted, but she absolutely could not show any signs of exhaustion. Once she revealed any signs of exhaustion, Pharaoh He would definitely follow up with another attack. By then, she wouldn't be able to stop him. But now, she had shattered the huge dragon into pieces and made Pharaoh He feel embarrassed. This had already caused a kind of shock in Pharaoh He's heart. Pharaoh He didn't dare to casually choose to attack. She could also get a moment of rest. Young lady is indeed arrogant. Pharaoh He's heart was overflowing with anger. In his eyes, Yiqing Luo was just a small sky profound cultivator. Not to mention that she was just a small cultivator who had just stepped into the sky profound stage. Even if she was a sky profound 5th grade cultivator, in front of him, Pharaoh she was just a piece of trash that could be easily oppressed. She was just a silly lass. Her innate talent was slightly stronger. Did she really think that she was that powerful? Pharaoh he pointed his hand seal forward. Yiqing Luo felt the ground suddenly shaking incessantly. Her heart tightened. Instinctively, she took a step back. And the moment she retreated, a sharp object shrouded in a black aura rose from the ground, where she had been standing. They were sharp rocks formed from the ground. If only Yiqing Luo had not taken this step back. Perhaps she was about to be split in half by that sharp stone. This pharaoh he was really going for the kill. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to think further, Yiqing Luo felt the surging feeling from the ground once again. She glanced at the extremely sharp stone. He quickly dodged to the side. Immediately following that, pieces of sharp huge rocks rose up from the ground, as though they were following Yiqing Luo's footsteps. As they kept following her footsteps, as pieces of them cracked. After a while, rows of extremely sharp boulders had already emerged from the ground of the entire area. Looking at Yiqing Luo's battered and exhausted appearance, Pharaoh he scoffed. His fingers, which were forming seals, quickly changed their movements. The dense mysterious yin qi surged out rapidly. This old man wants to see how much energy you have to escape. Pharaoh he sneered. Following that, he grabbed hold of the time and walked in front of those two elders. Together with them, they displayed their secret arts to set up the spirit assimilation array. With the addition of Pharaoh the spirit assimilation array received a huge supply of energy. Chapter 1639. Girl, we must stop that Pharaoh At this moment, Old Man Song wished he could rush out of the azure dew bracelet and transform into a spiritual body to stop Pharaoh Yiqing Luo dodged the sharp boulders. Her forehead was already full of sweat. I also want to stop it, but this damn thing, how on earth can it stop? This boulder had completely locked onto her. She continued to walk around the boulders. The entire ground was filled with boulders, and it was so deep that no one could stand on it. Devil classes students were trying their best to stop those 1,000 over students from disturbing Yiqing Luo. Chi-Chi and the vermilion bird were still circling in the air. Could it be, was he really going to let Shijua come out? Shiju was still a young wolf-type mirage beast. This kind of battle situation summoned Shiju. It was equivalent to sending Shiju to its death. Lass, your memory is so bad. Seeing that Yiqing Luo thought of Shiju, Old Man Song also suddenly recalled. Didn't Shiju swallow the Guiwu who guarded the 18 levels of hell in the Heavenly Pagoda's experiment? Guiwu? That meatball that could continuously regenerate? Before they participated in the interclass competition, it was a test of strength organized by the Academy. Once they entered the Heavenly Pagoda, the final obstacle would be this Guiwu. Right, Shiju had devoured Guiwu. In other words, he had inherited Guiwu's regeneration ability. There was this effect. Yiqing Luo totally didn't need to worry about Shiju's safety. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo summoned Shiju out. Upon receiving the order, Shiju immediately charged in Pharaoh's direction. Pharaoh frowned slightly, as though he had not expected that Yiqing Luo could actually summon out a war pet. Just as he was about to retract his mental power from the soul assimilation array, a voice suddenly rang out. A figure suddenly flashed in front of him. Following that, he saw Wolf Saint carrying Yiqing Qian as it blocked in front of Shiju. He frowned slightly, his face full of displeasure. Pharaoh, please hurry up. Seeing Holy Wolf taking the initiative to help, Pharaoh sneered inwardly. He did not reply to the wolf sacred technique. Instead, he closed his eyes and released his psychic energy once more. Yiqing Luo was also paying attention to Shiju's movements. Seeing that Shiju had been surrounded by the wolf saint technique, they immediately started fighting. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Shiju's combat ability had yet to undergo training. How could he be a match for the wolf saint technique? Old Man Song. If I were to release the thunderclap arts now. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth. She couldn't sit still and wait for death. A secret technique manual to clear the first 2 floors of the Purgatory Tower. She had learned it, but she could not use it in front of others. But now, he couldn't care less. No. Old Song stopped him without hesitation. If you use the thunderclap art, Then the dark powers will know that the Azure Dew bracelet is in your hands. Are you sure that you have the ability to protect the Azure Dew bracelet? Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. She turned around and avoided the sharp boulder that was chasing after her. He looked sideways at Shiju, who was obviously at a disadvantage in the hands of the Wolf Saint technique. His gaze shifted to the side. Seeing the 50 over Devil class students being surrounded by 1,000 over students, not even a drop of water could trickle through. He couldn't hurt those students. The students of Devil class could only knock those students unconscious. However, there were simply too many of them. Their physical strength was also limited. Their bodies were covered with wounds of various sizes. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed tightly. Clang clang. A sharp cry came from the air. Yiqing Luo raised her head. She saw Chi-Chi's charred fur, whereas Chi-Yen flapped his wings, without any intention of showing mercy to Chi-Chi. Chapter 1640. Lass, don't be rash. Sensing the raging fury in Yiqing Luo's heart, Old Man Song's voice was filled with urgency. Once Yiqing Luo released the thunderclap arts, the dark forces would most likely place their attention on the thunderclap arts. And then, the secret of the Azure Dew bracelet would be exposed to the lower realms. If the news of the Azure Dew bracelet's reappearance reached the upper realms, this lower realm, it would probably set off a bloodbath. Lasu, the more Old Man Song thought, the more anxious he got. But he hadn't finished his words. Suddenly, he felt an extremely horrifying profound qi flowing on Yiqing Luo's body. The enchanting profound qi enveloped Yiqing Luo from head to toe. The surrounding profound qi was like a raging storm, surging around Yiqing Luo's body continuously. This lass, could it be? Bam bam bam. A deafening explosion was heard. Following that, those huge rocks which kept on following Yiqing Luo's footsteps, which kept gushing out from the ground, started to explode. The entire stretch of sharp boulders that rose from the ground had already turned into ruins. Actually, Pharaoh he saw that his curse was destroyed by Yiqing Luo, using such a barbaric method. His face revealed a shocked and aghast expression. When he opened his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo, Pharaoh he had even stopped chanting the incantation, only to see that young lady floating above the ruins. Her green and white uniform was fluttering under the strong wind. That long black hair, which had reached her buttocks, danced on her shoulders as misty as smoke. That devastatingly beautiful face was extremely gloomy and cold, suffused with a murderous viciousness. The most dazzling thing was that pair of eyes which were filled with killing intent. The brilliance circulated, like the brightest stars in the sky, bewitching people's hearts, taking their lives. This kind of imposing manner, it was totally different from the previous imposing manner. The current Yiqing Luo was like a queen who controlled everything in the world. Above the 9 heavens, no one could match her. The first level of the Sky Profound realm was actually this powerful. The current Yiqing Luo had unleashed all the energy in her body. Sky Profound Supreme. It was known as the Supreme Profound Strength of the Strong. Only the Earth Profound 3rd grade Pharaoh, he was able to use his mental power to cast a curse. Yet Yiqing Luo could use her profound energy to directly break it. Girl, you're too reckless. Old Man Song was aware of the motive behind Yiqing Luo's actions. His heart was somewhat distressed, but he was extremely helpless. At this moment, Old Man Song was extremely fed up with his current self. He was unable to manifest his spiritual body, unable to help Yiqing Luo. He could only watch helplessly as Yiqing Luo fell into a predicament from within the Azure Dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo's current body, because of the profound Yin Qi, which could control her consciousness at any time, was totally unable to unleash all her profound energy. Otherwise, it would be easy for the mysterious Yin aura to seize the opportunity to control her. But Yiqing Luo still released her profound energy. He could not use the thunderclap incantation. He could only use this most direct method. Wolf Saint technique. Quick! Stop her! Now only you can stop her. Pharaoh he looked at Yiqing Luo's icy cold murderous gaze, as his face turned pale from fright. Pharaoh Crane's strength lied in his curses. But his curses were all dark curses. It was a forbidden, sinister curse in this world. It broke the laws of this world. Naturally, it would receive the punishment and backlash from the heavenly way. Pharaoh, he was very clear. Even if he used his curses to stop Yiqing Luo's footsteps. Chapter 1641. As for himself, because of the excessive consumption of his mental power, instead, he would collapse even more than Yiqing Luo. Wolf Saint technique split Shiju apart with one palm, as he shot a cold glance at Elder He. The expression on his face revealed a sliver of disdain. Trash. You. Elder He's expression sunk. This Wolf Saint technique was obviously taking revenge for calling him trash earlier. Wolf Saint technique gave a cold harumph as he retracted his gaze and headed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. No matter how much they didn't get along, under the current situation, they couldn't fight amongst themselves. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, as she didn't even bother to look at Wolf Saint technique. Just as Wolf Saint technique's attack was about to hit her, Yiqing Luo's figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. In a blink of an eye, Yiqing Luo appeared beside Shiju. Earlier Wolf Saint technique's palm had struck Shiju onto the ground, making it unable to move. Yiqing Luo looked at Shiju, who was lying on the ground, spitting out blood. The coldness in her eyes grew thicker. Slut! How dare you belittle this saint technique? Wolf Saint technique bellowed angrily, as he hugged Yiqing Qian tightly, as he leapt forward. With a palm strike, it brought along a black profound Yin whirlwind as it struck towards Yiqing Luo's back. The baleful aura was like a ray, as though it wanted to devour everything in the world. Yiqing Luo's squinted eyes shot out a chilly intent, as it became more and more penetrating. Her fingers, which were caressing Shiju's black fur, moved. The glower flame fan instantly left her palm. In the middle of her palm, a few numbers flipped rapidly. Following that, like a sharp blade, it shot towards the palm wind behind her. Boom! The glower flame fan's enchanting red glow collided with the palm wind, which was filled with profound Yin Qi. The black aura was constantly flowing. That valiant aura was like an avalanche, as though it wanted to suppress that enchanting red glow completely. But just at this moment, that red glow, which was enveloped by the profound Yin Qi, suddenly it released a stream of blazing flame. Carrying an extremely terrifying aura, it broke apart all the aura. Boom, boom, boom. Another one or two loud vibrations were heard. As the glowing flame fan spun rapidly, it actually split apart the mysterious Yin Qi of the palm wind. The bewitching red light gradually gained the upper hand. Lang Shengfei's expression sunk, as if he had not expected Yiqing Luo to have such overbearing strength. He immediately pushed out his palm again. The violent palm wind was accompanied by dense mysterious Yin Qi. In an instant, the palm wind surged like a flood. Qing Luo! Madam Qing Luo! When the devil class students saw that, they were filled with worry. Unfortunately, they couldn't find the time. The encirclement of more than 1,000 students had completely exhausted all of their strength. Don't mind me. Yiqing Luo's chilly voice revealed an extreme chill. Her frosty face had already been frozen into ice. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth lingered around her body. Gradually, a white protective barrier was formed. She narrowed her eyes and the corners of her mouth curled up into a cold smile. It was ridiculous. It was simply laughable. A few devil class students, because of this moment of absent-mindedness, were struck by students from other academies. Meanwhile, the bewitching red light that was surrounded by the black gas suddenly released a dazzling light. Bang! The glower flame fan collided with that surging palm wind. Following that, it went straight towards Lang Shengfei's face. What? Lang Shengfei stared at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. This sky-profound first-grade cultivator actually broke through his profound Qi attack? How could this be possible? One must know that after the sky-profound stage, the difference of one grade was like a world of difference. A sky-profound second-grade cultivator could easily suppress a sky-profound first-grade cultivator. Not to mention, he was now a sky-profound third-grade cultivator. Chapter 1642. Not allowing Wolf Saint magic to think too much. The glower fan's attack was already right in front of him. The profound strength of the first grade of the sky profound realm was extremely dense and vigorous. It was accompanied by a terrifying red glow. Wolf Saint Magic swiftly evaded. With a flip of his hand, his palm struck towards the glower fan. That palm chi was like a huge dragon galloping, engulfing the mountains and rivers, obviously intending to destroy the glower fan completely. But the Wolf Saint Technique's palm had yet to strike out. He heard Pharaoh's sharp howl. Wolf trash. Are you blind? Why are you competing with a magical weapon? That young lady went to destroy the last array eye. The last array eye? Wolf Saint Magic's pupils constricted. His state of mind relaxed a little at this moment. Bam! In this moment of absent-mindedness, the glowing flame fan coincidentally struck his raised palm. Ah! Wolf Saint Magic screamed. That glower fan carried a violent profound chi, and directly pierced through Wolf Saint Magic's palm. Wolf Saint Magic painfully retracted his bloody hand. Idiot! Pharaoh he gritted his teeth and scolded in a low voice. Your sacred law society is simply incapable of accomplishing anything. And at this moment, Yiqing Luo shot the glower fan towards Wolf Saint Magic. She headed towards the direction of one of the elders who was still casting the spell. The fatal profound chi shot out from Yiqing Luo's palm. Her face was emotionless, and her pair of blood-stained eyes were ice-cold. This Yiqing Luo, like a bloodthirsty killer god from hell. Even devil classes students were shocked by Yiqing Luo's expression. That elder had no chance to resist and died under Yiqing Luo's palm wind. Blood splattered. Yiqing Luo grabbed the elder's corpse and took out his blood. Qing Luo. Yen Xiaoyi looked at Yiqing Luo in front of her. Her voice was trembling. This Yiqing Luo looked extremely unfamiliar. Yiqing Luo heard the voice and glanced sideways at Yen Xiaoyi. Her exquisite face was stained with the elder's blood that splattered out. It made that face even more seductive and charming. However, the coldness in his eyes did not have the slightest bit of warmth that he usually had. Such a Yiqing Luo, even they. Shivers ran down his spine. Qing! Yen Xiaoyi clenched her fists tightly, as she wanted to continue talking to Yiqing Luo. But Yiqing Luo had already turned her head around. Holding the blood in her hands, she headed towards the direction of the last array eye. Yen Xiaoyi's voice was stuck in her throat. Qing Luo is a little strange, have you all realized? Yen Xiaoyi said softly. A few devil class students nodded. Yiqing Luo had never used that kind of expression to look at them. What was going on? Why was the current Yiqing Luo? Why does he look so strange? Yiqing Luo quickly approached the last array eye. If one looked closely, they could clearly see the cold sweat seeping out of her forehead. Her tightly knitted brows furrowed into several layers of wrinkles. Damn it! Just as Xian had said, she could not force herself to release all of her profound rank, as expected, forcefully consuming the power of the profound jade heart. She could no longer control her mind. Perhaps it was because he had lost control too many times. This time, she actually sensed something. She sensed the blood in her body boiling. She could feel a voice in her head that was constantly clamoring for her to kill everyone present. Bursts of piercing pain in her heart seemed to be stimulating her senses, especially when she had completely concentrated all her energy on the glower flame fan, attacking the Wolf Saint technique. Chapter 1643. Heavens knew how much willpower she had used. Only then did she forcefully suppress the restless feeling in her heart. At this moment, Yiqing Luo felt extremely fortunate. When she was the patriarch of the Yi family's hidden family, she had suffered various kinds of inhumane torture from those old men. There was one of them, which was the torture towards willpower. Under the inhumane torture of those old men, she had been tortured for an entire month. Tortured until she was about to lose her mind. Tortured until she was on her last breath, about to die. And through those tortures, successfully surviving till now. Her willpower was beyond what a normal person could imagine. Otherwise, when she had just crossed over to this world, under the situation where her profound jade heart was dug out, and she was forcefully fed with medicine, she could still make the most direct response. What she relied on was that inhumane willpower. Today, this willpower had once again saved her life. But, This kind of forceful suppression would not solve the root of the problem. She had to find out where that mysterious force, which was controlling her consciousness, came from. Only then could she get rid of that inexplicable profound yin-chi in her body. Then she could rest assured. In her chest, that heart was beating faster and faster, as though it was about to jump out from her throat. Yi-Ching Luo took a deep breath and increased her speed as she headed straight towards the array eye. Quick! Stop, Yi-Ching Luo! The last array eye must not be destroyed. Pharaoh's sharp and flustered voice kept ringing. Those remaining 100 over dark ones and 10 over dark guardians swarmed towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. This bunch of students were simply too crazy. They had never seen such abnormal youngsters. Just based on 50 over people, they actually blocked off the attacks of 1,000 over students. And they were able to delay them, not allowing them to stop Yi-Ching Luo. They absolutely could not let these students leave the blazing flame nest alive. This thought made the dark forces battle intent ignite. All of them broke through the devil class's students' obstruction and charged towards Yi-Ching Luo without a care for their lives. Momentarily, the entire area which was surrounded by the array formation, it had all sunk into a terrifying atmosphere. As the atmosphere froze into ice, Yi-Ching Luo was just a few steps away from the last array eye. The Dark Guardian had already rushed over and speedily attacked Yi-Ching Luo, preventing her from moving forward. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes turned cold as an extremely cold breath started to encircle her feet. Like a whirlwind, it circled around his body. The glowing flame fan in her hand suddenly opened and was raised high up. Wind blades that were as sharp as blades flew towards the Dark Protectors. The Dark Protectors didn't have time to dodge. They were cut into pieces by the wind blades. The thick smell of blood added a nauseating smell to the cold air. Fresh blood splashed onto Yi-Ching Luo's face and body. Yi-Ching Luo's expression was emotionless, as her eyes were filled with an icy cold glint, as she stared coldly at the dark party, who kept rushing over, blocking her way. The flames around his body made him look like a bloodthirsty god of death. He raised his hand, and a terrifying ray of light swept across the area. Wherever the profound energy went, it left behind a deep pit. Corpses flew out one after another. Even the dark ones, who were used to seeing slaughter, were shocked by this scene. At this moment, he was so scared that his legs felt like jelly. Some of them didn't dare to go nearer to Yi-Ching Luo's direction. Was this really that 15-year-old young lady? She was so vicious and merciless in killing people. Furthermore, she was still so calm, without any change in expression. It was as though Chapter 1644. What are you waiting for? Pharaoh's heart was burning with anxiety. His fingers rapidly formed hand seals, and he used his powerful mental power to once again cast a dark curse. A thick stream of profound yin-chi turned into whirlwinds filled with murderous aura. That whirlwind seemed as though it had condensed into raging waves as it surged towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. The range of the whirlwind was extremely large. Yi-Ching Luo had nowhere to escape to. Naturally, those dark ones who were surrounding Yi-Ching Luo couldn't avoid being attacked by the whirlwind. However, Pharaoh did not mind. As long as he could stop Yi-Ching Luo from getting closer to the last flame array eye, even if all the dark ones were dead, he would not hesitate to do so. Yi-Ching Luo had nowhere to hide from these whirlwinds. Only by leaving the range of the formation could he avoid the whirlwind and survive. Pharaoh! The dark ones howled in pain as the whirlwind attacked them, but their voices only lasted for an instant. He disappeared into the whirlwind. The whirlwind was like a demon that could devour everything. Not even their bones were left of the countless dark ones. Immediately following that, those numerous whirlwinds enveloped Yi-Ching Luo tightly. It had completely engulfed Yi-Ching Luo. Ha ha ha! Seeing this, Pharaoh could not help but laugh out loud. His sinister eyes gleefully looked at Yi-Ching Luo, who was engulfed by the whirlwind. Confirming that the whirlwind had indeed swallowed Yi-Ching Luo completely, Pharaoh immediately flew toward the eye of the formation. When he was about to reach the eye of the formation, Pharaoh's face turned pale. With his powerful mental power, a hint of vigilance surfaced in his heart. His footsteps came to a halt. In the meantime, that frightening whirlwind was still as imposing as before, mixed with the crushed stones and limbs of the corpses on the ground. However, the only difference was, the whirlwind was surrounded by rings of powerful red light. They were densely packed one after another, like a continuous stream of red electricity. This power. Pharaoh's face was deathly pale as he stared at the whirlwind in shock. No, impossible. How could a first-grade sky profound Xian practitioner possess such formidable strength? An enchanting red glow. Strands of silk wrapped around the whirlwind. Bang! The earth shook and the mountains shook. The whirlwind slowly opened up a gap. A figure covered in blood, and covered in a cold aura rushed out. After that figure broke through the whirlwind. Without any hesitation, Zhang Xian headed straight for the eye of the formation. With a schwa sound, the elder's blood fell onto the formation's eye. Rumble! As the flames were extinguished, the entire area began to collapse. Soul assimilation array, it was completely destroyed. How is this possible? Pharaoh Crane staggered a few steps back. On this trembling ground, he was unable to stand firm, and fell heavily to the ground. He was originally proud and arrogant. At this moment, he was like a stray dog. He had never expected this. Yiqing Luo could actually destroy the array core. After releasing all of the power of the profound jade heart, he was actually still able to maintain his rationality. The truth is right in front of you. Yiqing Luo's cold voice was devoid of any emotion. She looked coldly at Pharaoh He, her eyes filled with murderous intent. Released the control of the scarlet flame. You! Pharaoh He cowered as he retreated backwards, turning his head to see Wolf Saint Art standing by the side. Quickly go up. Chapter 1645. Pharaoh He's face turned pale as he looked at Yiqing Luo's chest. When his gaze met the energy released by the profound jade heart, his expression changed as he turned to look at Wolf Saint Magic in shock. This is impossible. Wolf Saint Magic sneered. That laughter was filled with sarcasm. Quickly bring me away. Let's go. Pharaoh He panicked. The array was already destroyed, and he didn't have that much mental power to cast his spells to deal with Yiqing Luo. Moreover, his curse, to the current Yiqing Luo had no effect at all. Her profound jade heart. It actually released a purple brilliance. Purple. What did it represent? That was the highest grade of the profound jade heart. Back then when Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart was dug out and sent to the dark forces, Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart had also passed through his hands. He knew that Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart was a rare and extremely talented profound jade heart. But that was merely a blue jade grade. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple. In this lower realm, a blue jade grade profound heart jade was already considered a heaven-defying existence. Not to mention the highest grade purple jade. This Yiqing Luo, what kind of pervert was she? No wonder his lord tried all ways and means to obtain Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart. To obtain this vessel which contained the profound jade heart. Purple jade grade profound jade heart. Everyone in the world wanted it. What's the use of just knowing some spells and spells? At the crucial moment, you can't even protect your own life. Wolf Saint Magic ridiculed Pharaoh He, his eyes filled with ridicule. Pharaoh He's face turned pale. The pride and self-esteem in his heart made his expression filled with anger. But due to the current situation, he could only seek help from Wolf Saint Magic. Finally he suppressed his anger. Wolf Saint Magic, today's mission's failure. You and I are both responsible. If you don't save me, you can't take on his lord's anger alone. What has the mission got to do with me? These people are not from Wolf Saint Magic's forces. Wolf Saint Technique laughed heartily as his gaze swept past the icy cold young lady, whose eyes were filled with killing intent. He trash. Just stay here and enjoy Yiqing Luo's wrath. Ha 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 ha. He hugged the person in his arms tightly. His figure suddenly retreated. Then, he quickly moved toward a certain direction in the spirit formation. Yiqing Luo lifted her eyelids. A cold glint, like a sharp blade, shot straight in the direction of the Wolf Saint Technique. Her cold eyes were filled with murderous intent. You still want to run after injuring my Shiju? A chilly voice, as though it was wrapped in frost, spat out from Yi Qing Luo's pink lips word by word. She flipped her hand. The gourd flame fan raised a fire dragon in the palm of his hand. Then her body followed the fire dragon like a spinning top. Under the xian qi released by the devouring flame fan, it continued to spin, charging straight at the Wolf Saint technique with irresistible force. Wolf Saint Fa felt a chill run down his spine. He thought that with his speed, Yi Qing Luo wouldn't be able to find him. However, when that powerful dark force rushed towards him, he felt a chill run down his spine. Wolf Saint technique then realized. The current Yi Qing Luo was really not the previous Yi Qing Luo. The current her was too decisive and ruthless. There was no hesitation in her every move. Direct and decisive. Ruthless and vicious. Bam! That powerful profound energy landed with a loud bang. Wolf Saint technique couldn't even catch his breath. Chapter 1646. The pressure behind Lang Xingfa's back caused his body to fall forward. Yi Qing Qian, who was in his arms, almost fell out. Wolf Saint Magic clenched his teeth tightly. He abruptly turned Yi Qing Qian's body to the same position as him. With a swoosh sound, Wolf Saint Magic's back was stuck to the ground, sweeping a long ditch. The ground had collapsed due to the destruction of the spirit assimilation array. There were sharp gravel everywhere. Wolf Saint Magic's back had swept out such a long line on the ground. The flesh on his back was probably badly mutilated. After the pressure from the impact dissipated, Wolf Saint Magic fell onto the ground powerlessly. Yi Qing Qian lay steadily on his body. His vision swept past Yi Qing Qian's face, as though he had confirmed that she was not injured. Then he slowly heaved a sigh of relief. The moment he heaved a sigh of relief, his chest suddenly felt stuffy. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. The expression on Wolf Saint Magic's face gradually turned sinister. He raised his head and stared angrily at Yi Qing Luo. Wolf Saint Magic is indeed infatuated. I can't help but be touched by Wolf Saint Magic's infatuation towards eldest sister. Yi Qing Luo's icy cold voice was filled with an eerie chill. Her lips curled as she revealed a cold smile. That frosty eyes were calm and cold. There was no hint of being touched at all. Wolf Saint Magic wanted to get up, but the sharp pain from his back made him suck in a breath of cold air. Hearing his painful groan, Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as her smile deepened. Is it painful? It's right if it's painful. What my brothers have suffered, you have to suffer 100 times more pain. She slowly walked towards the Holy Wolf technique. Her footsteps were light and steady. The gravel on the ground made a sha-sha sound under the friction of her shoes. That sound was in Wolf Saint Magic's ears. It was like a grievous news demanding his life. She got closer. His heart constricted. This Yi Qing Luo's imposing manner was strong, and her entire body was covered in flames. It was not an aura that a sky-profound first-grade cultivator would have. Where on earth had gone wrong? Why did everything not go according to the original plan? Everything had deviated from the original track. Yi Qing Luo's smile bloomed on her lips. The powerful aura was getting more and more violent. The glowing flame fan in Xiao Chen's hand was also surrounded by red electric currents, continuously accumulating power. Immediately after, Yi Qing Luo's palm moved. That profound light directly attacked the Wolf Saint technique. His aura was like a rainbow, and he was as fast as lightning. The Wolf Saint technique wanted to dodge. However, he was carrying a person in his arms. The slightest movement of the muscles on his back was accompanied by an excruciating pain. There was no time to react at all, seeing that the dark force was about to land on his body. Suddenly, a murderous yin qi exploded on the Wolf Saint Law's body. Boom boom boom. A deafening tremor reverberated. Yi Qing Luo's strike had created a huge black hole on the ground. And on the ground, there was no sign of Wolf Saint Fa and Yi Qing Qian. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she recalled the yin qi, which she sensed from the Wolf Saint technique earlier. His expression sank, and his eyes turned cold as he immediately looked in the direction of Pharaoh He. Sure enough, Pharaoh He was chanting a curse. His other hand rested on the Wolf Saint Law, who was riddled with scars. Yiqing Luo realized something as her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Trying to escape? Her footsteps expanded as she speedily flew nearer. But a burst of dense, profound yin qi wrapped the three of them tightly. A strong hurricane surged on the ground. In a split second, the three of them who were enveloped by the black qi disappeared from their original positions. It was the dark incantation again. Chapter 1647. Yiqing Luo's heart was burning with rage. His eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. She clenched her fists tightly, and her expression was extremely cold. She wanted to kill Lang Xingfa. She wanted to kill Pharaoh Crane. Those who had harmed her brothers had to die. Las! Just as Yiqing Luo's mind was filled with intense killing intent, Old Man Song's voice called back Yiqing Luo's consciousness. Her long, curly eyelashes trembled slightly. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed coldly. Don't let hatred and anger blind you. Old Man Song's voice was solemn. Those who can pose a threat have already escaped. Now calm down and calm down. Calm down? How could she calm down? Her Shiju was still lying on the ground. Her hair was singed all over her body. Her brothers were covered in wounds of various sizes. All of this, it was all because of the dark forces. Holy Wolf and Pharaoh he left. Was she just going to let it go like this? No. Impossible. No matter what, she couldn't let it go so easily. Wolf Saint Dharma, Pharaoh he, and Yiqing Qian, all of them deserved to die. The chilling killing intent surging in his heart continued to rise. Bit by bit, it eroded her sanity. Old Man Song was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. His words were unable to recall Yiqing Luo's consciousness. If Yiqing Luo was allowed to be corroded by hatred and fury, Yiqing Luo would completely fall into a state of losing control. At that time, it was very likely that everyone in the barrier would be slaughtered. It didn't matter if he killed students from other academies. But if they hurt the people in the devil class, after Yiqing Luo regained consciousness, she would probably not be able to recover from this setback for the rest of her life. At this time, DMO Xian, that kid, was actually not around. If DMO Xian was here, he would definitely have a way to wake Yiqing Luo up. Where did the profound yin qi that controlled Yiqing Luo come from? Why was he able to control Yiqing Luo time and time again? Within the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Song anxiously scurried all over the ground. Roar! Clang clang! Suddenly, a loud and clear tiger roar came from the sky. Immediately after, the cries of Scarlet Flame could be heard. Yiqing Luo's murderous eyes instantly shifted towards the horizon. Chi-Chi and Chi-Yen were already locked in combat. Scarlet Flame's sharp claws viciously scratched Chi-Chi's charred fur. Chi-Chi howled and struggled to break free from the flames. It was fully capable of resisting, but he couldn't use his sharp teeth to face Chi-Yen. Chi-Chi's struggling body was reflected in Yiqing Luo's pupils. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted as the murderous intent in her eyes gradually dissipated. Chi-Chi! She furrowed her brows and leaped up into the air. The figure suddenly appeared in front of Chi-Yen and Chi-Chi. With a flick of her wrist, the glowing flame fan condensed a ray of light. Before he could release it, he heard Chi-Chi let out a few soft whimpers. Yiqing Luo's hand movements suddenly froze. Chi-Chi could not bear for her to hurt Chi-Yen. Even now Chi-Yen, under the control of the curse, it is covered with cuts and bruises. It was still unwilling to hurt Chi-Yen. They were friends who had fought together since ancient times. Even if they were separated by tens of thousands of years, the feelings they had for each other in the past had not faded. Lass, Chi-Yen has signed a soul contract with you. Its soul has completely signed a contract with yours. Use the contract to awaken Chi-Yen. Old Man Song kept searching for a way in his mind, and finally thought of a reliable way. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her charming eyes stared fixedly at Chi-Yen for some time. Chapter 1648. The soul contract was the highest level of contracts signed by magical beasts, mirage beasts, sacred beasts, and humans. As the master, Yiqing Luo had the absolute right to use the soul contract to forcibly give orders to the contracted beasts. Even sacred beasts, in front of the master who signed the soul contract. They had to obey the orders obediently. All along, although Yiqing Luo signed the soul contract with Qi, but she had never used the function of the soul contract. She didn't think so much for a while. Qi Yan still blocked the communication with her. Her consciousness couldn't touch Qi Yan's brain waves at all. She couldn't communicate with Qi Yan at all. Girl, I will teach you how to forcibly awaken Qi Yan. Next, listen to my instructions. Listening to old man Song's teaching step by step. Yiqing Luo stared at Qi Yan's blood-red eyes. The glower flame fan hooked. The sharp blade scratched her finger. A drop of blood dripped from her finger. She flicked her fingertips. That drop of blood flicked on Qi Yan's forehead. That drop of blood, in the shining red phoenix feather, left no trace at all. But the next second, Qi Yan's claws clutching Qi's fur suddenly loosened. From its mouth came a mournful cry. Roar, roar. Qi stabilized its body in pain, raised its tiger eyes, and looked nervously at Qi Yan. Yiqing Luo gave Qi a reassuring look. Immediately, staring at Qi Yan's red eyes, her voice was full of tension. Qi Yan, listen to my command. Stop the pollution of the flames. Clang clang. Clang 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 clang. Qi Yan screamed mournfully. The huge figure, like a running fire in the sky, constantly in the sky, hovering in pain. However, Yiqing Luo's voice was getting louder and louder. Every word was heavier than the last, and the force behind it was even heavier. Qi Yan's screams became more and more mournful. Qi remembered that the beast eyes kept chasing Qi Yan's figure, until the speed of Qi Yan's hovering became slower and slower. Clang! Qi Yan's mouth issued a low cry. That scarlet beast eyes blinked and finally focused on Yiqing Luo. Ugly woman, what are you doing? A familiar tone, a tone that deserved a beating. Qi let out a low roar and rushed forward, rubbing his head against Qi Yan's body. F***ck. You. What the hell are you? My little white, how can you, how? Qi Yan was first approached by a group of burnt things, and his face suddenly showed a look of disgust. After sensing Qi's aura, Qi Yan's eyes suddenly widened, especially after seeing the smell of burnt hair on Qi's body. The scarlet eyes of the beast were filled with disbelief. His aura was still lingering on Qi. To be able to burn Qi's fur to such a state, apart from its vermilion bird flames, no other beast, no one else could do this. It hurt Qi. But why didn't it have any memories? Scarlet flame, purify the pollution of the flames. A clear and cold voice, with a hint of command. Qi Yan was not angry, but turned to look at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Raging flames? It actually used flames to pollute people's hearts? Listening to the sounds of fighting and killing from below, Qi Yan's vision looked towards the ground. The students from the various academies and devil classes students were fighting bitterly. Obviously those students had been polluted by its flames. What on earth was going on? Chapter 1649. What you've done, Qi will tell you later. Yiqing Luo's voice was as cold as ice. Now purify everyone immediately. Yiqing Luo's tone made Qi Yan extremely unhappy. But thinking that it had done so many things out of the blue, it didn't even know what it was doing. Qi Yan's arrogance weakened. Following that, it spread its wings. A raging flame spread across the entire area. Those 1,000 over students gradually regained their consciousness under the purification of the flame. All the students from various academies were in a dazed state. What are we doing? Pain, pain, pain. Who the hell hit me? It hurts. Devil class. Are you looking for an internal strife? Why did you hit me for? Momentarily, the entire area was in an uproar. Hearing the students from various academies speaking up, devil classes students heaved a sigh of relief. If they continued to exhaust their energy, they really couldn't hold on any longer. Even if their bodies were made of iron, they were still human. F***k. What happened? Why did it turn into this state? What a disgusting blood stench. Why are there so many corpses on the ground? And they're all body parts. Is the flame nest going to collapse? I can't even stand properly. There's no place to land at all. The students who had regained consciousness looked at everything around them. One by one, the young faces revealed an astonished expression. To them, the bloody scene in front of them had already exceeded their imagination. Devil Class's students explained what had happened earlier in a concise manner. When the students from various academies heard that, they looked towards the circling red flame in the sky. They were unable to recall what had happened earlier. Looking at the ground, there were still several hundreds of students who had been knocked out. What the Devil Class students said was not far from the truth. It was all true. The students looked exhausted and their bodies were filled with big and small injuries, as they felt increasingly guilty. If you feel sorry for us, then kill these people from the dark forces. A chilly voice, carrying an irresistible majesty, descended from the sky. Yiqing Luo was like a noble queen, overlooking everything below her. Her devastatingly beautiful face was solemn and cold. Her charming eyes were filled with a cold glint. Just by looking at it, one would feel a chill down one's spine. The students of the various academies instinctively looked at the dozens of darkness enforcers and darkness protectors not far away, their faces filled with fear and dread. A holy technique and a pharaoh. Both of them had slipped away. As for them small fries, they were thrown here. Sacred Wolf and Pharaoh, he could easily leave the barrier in this area. But they could not leave. If it was before, when these dark ones and dark protectors faced these more than 1,000 students, they couldn't help but tremble in fear. It would never be empty. If it had been someone else, they would have died. Even if another 1,000 people came, they wouldn't be afraid. However, among this group of people, there was a bunch of freakish students among freaks. There was an even more perverted commander. One must know that just now more than 400 of them, as well as more than 100 Dark Guardians, were unable to gain any advantage against this group of students. Not to mention now, what are you afraid of? Just now, under the contamination of the vermilion bird's raging flames, their physical strength has long been exhausted. Aren't they just 700 or 800 students who haven't even grown their hair? We're not empty. The few Dark Protectors' words made the rest of the Dark Ones ignite their battle intent. What they said was true. They would die if they fought. They would also die if they didn't. Chapter 1650. The people from the dark forces raised the weapons in their hands as they fought against the students from various academies. 800 over students, although they had expended quite a bit of energy after being contaminated earlier. But after their minds were contaminated by the blazing flames, right now, they were filled with hatred towards these dark forces, who wanted to take away their lives and souls. Hearing Yiqing Luo's icy cold words, they didn't have any fear at all. Looking at the dark forces, they were still arrogant and wanted to kill them. Each student was braver than the other. The entire area, which was surrounded by the array barrier, was filled with battle cries. The sky was filled with blood, and the thick stench of blood filled every corner of the air. After those students regained their senses, they saw the ground full of blood and corpses. By now they were already immune to blood. Instead, it was the stench of blood. This stimulated the lofty sentiments in these youngsters' hearts. The reason why they entered the academy, the reason why they joined the academy exchange, the reason why they followed Master Gui Wu to the blazing flame nest. It was because they wanted to become strong. They wanted to possess absolute ability. This kind of massacre was something that they would have to experience in the future. Ugly woman, can you keep your gaze away? Qi Yan's arrogance was totally unable to rise. Its red beast eyes weakly swept a glance at Yiqing Luo, and immediately lowered its head in fear. Yiqing Luo's gaze was filled with chilling intent, as it revealed a thick malevolent aura. As though, the next moment, she was going to kill it. Qi Yan leaned towards Qi's side as his voice became weaker. I know. This matter is indeed my fault. As a sacred beast, I have fallen into the dark forces trap. The next time I meet the person who controls me, I will definitely cut him into pieces to vent your anger. All right? However, Qi Yan's words didn't get any response at all. Yiqing Luo's gaze was still as cold as ice. It was still the same, quietly staring at Qi Yan. There was no emotion on her face, without any feelings. Even Qi, on seeing Yiqing Luo in this state, felt a little apprehensive. Roar roar, Chi moaned softly. Yiqing Luo had no reaction at all. Qi Yan's sharp mouth moved, but looking at Yiqing Luo's appearance, he stopped what he wanted to say. Little White, don't you think that ugly woman is a little weird? It lowered its voice and whispered into Chi-Chi's ear. Chi-Chi let out a soft roar. It felt the same way. It couldn't help but wonder, was the master in front of it really its master? The color of blood filled her eyes. A sea of scarlet. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The blood splattered on her body. Yiqing Luo's long eyelashes trembled slightly. There was an inexplicable restlessness in her heart, as if it was urging her to do something. It seemed like he was urging her to kill everyone present. He enjoyed the pleasure of fresh blood brushing against his face. He enjoyed the pleasure of ending someone else's life and watching them beg for mercy under his hands. This kind of thinking made Yiqing Luo's mind even more chaotic. Subconsciously, there was a voice calling her name. There was a voice that kept waking her up. Tell her. Her way of thinking was wrong. She knew that this restlessness was wrong. She wanted to suppress the restlessness in her heart. But the more she suppressed it, Chapter 1651. Found it. Found it. Suddenly, Old Man Song's anxious voice sounded in her mind. Yiqing Luo forced herself to stay conscious. Found what? Old Man Song's voice was anxious and a bit excited. But more than that, it was worry and doubt. I saw the source of the profound yin qi in your body. The source of profound yin qi? These few words made Yiqing Luo's consciousness sober up a bit. She suppressed the restlessness in her heart and took a deep breath. Where is it? She knew the reason why her current mood was so abnormal. It was precisely because of the inexplicable profound yin qi in her body that was causing mischief. As long as she knew the source of the profound yin qi in her body, she would remove that source. She would no longer be controlled by others. I investigated. The source of the profound yin qi is... Old Man Song paused and continued with some difficulty. Profound jade heart. Profound jade heart? Yiqing Luo's brows wrinkled. The source of the profound yin qi was her profound jade heart? Her profound jade heart had profound yin qi? Yiqing Luo's slender white hand pressed on her heart. She could clearly sense that the profound jade heart nurtured in her heart was constantly releasing a steady stream of profound energy. She didn't sense the slightest trace of profound yin qi. If the profound heart was on her profound jade heart, she should be able to sense it immediately. When I first investigated, I couldn't believe it either. Old Man Song sighed lightly. But the source of the profound yin qi is indeed from your profound jade heart. It was no wonder that once Yiqing Luo released her strength, she would receive the erosion and control of the profound yin qi, precisely because, at the same time when Yiqing Luo released her strength, she needed to operate the profound jade heart's power. And the profound jade heart's power, once it exceeded a certain level, this would cause the thread of mysterious yin energy hidden within the Xian heart jade to come out. Moreover, the profound yin qi hidden within the profound jade heart's technique was extremely brilliant. It was very likely that she used a dark curse to conceal the profound yin qi's aura. As Old Man Song explained his conjecture, he immediately continued. This old man's conjecture was also derived from your reaction today. Yiqing Luo was now a sky profound first-grade cultivator. The profound energy in the profound jade heart was also extremely abundant. Because of this, the profound strength of the first grade of the sky profound realm was more or less able to suppress the profound yin energy of the darkness curse arts. This led to a huge change in Yiqing Luo's temperament. He faintly felt the urge to be controlled. However, he was able to retract his consciousness in time. He wasn't completely controlled by the mysterious yin energy. However, even now, he was still able to suppress his control over the mysterious yin qi. But after a long time, after the outburst, it would be even more difficult to call back Yiqing Luo's consciousness as compared to the previous control. But now, Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with an extremely intense killing intent. It was because the battles between the students of the various academies and the dark forces had stirred up the profound yin qi. Girl, you must calm down. Think of a way to break open the enchantment and leave this place. Old Man Song warned her seriously. His life was no longer in danger. Yiqing Luo no longer needed to forcefully release her profound grade and use her profound qi. Her profound heart jade gradually stabilized, and that surge of profound yin qi would once again disappear into Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade. As long as she left this bloody area, Yiqing Luo's consciousness could always rely on her willpower to pull through. Dark curse arts. Yiqing Luo muttered these 4 words in a low voice. Suddenly, her charming eyes flashed slightly. A wisp of radiance flashed past her eyes. Chapter 1652. Lass, are you thinking of? Old Man Song's voice tightened. No. This is too risky. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. Taking risks is to look forward to a better future. If she continued to passively accept the attacks and sneak attacks from the dark forces, she would definitely die. Sooner or later, she would fall into the hands of the dark forces. She was never a passive person who was controlled by others. Why not seize the opportunity, turning passivity into initiative? This hidden danger could be solved in one go. In the future, everyone would be happy. Your current ability is not enough to go head-on with the dark forces. Old Man Song admitted that Yiqing Luo's thinking was right. However, such thoughts had to be based on reality. What kind of place was the underworld organization? Who are those people? That was a force that belonged to the lower realm, outside of the upper realm. It was a power that had been expelled by the heavenly Tao. Based on Yiqing Luo's current ability, if she were to go head-on against the dark forces, it was like using an egg to smash a rock. Old Man Song, I understand your worries. Yiqing Luo was very clear that this decision of hers was indeed a gamble with her life. If there were any accidents, it was very likely that she had died in the hands of the dark forces. But this is my only chance. The existence of the dark forces had always been a mystery, even if it was a battle between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Organization. They had yet to find the real base of the dark forces. If Pharaoh he was still nearby, and used the dark curse technique to completely control her, she decided to beat him at his own game. If she pretended to be obsessed with sex, she would allow Pharaoh he to bring her to the base camp of the dark forces. As long as he knew the exact location of the underground forces, through the profound phoenix ring, she told Diamo Xian the exact location. Diamo Xian would be able to lead the Imperial Palace's disciples to attack the dark forces in one fell swoop. The dark forces had lost many people in the fire lair. Holy Wolf and Pharaoh he were also heavily injured. At this moment, it was the easiest time for the dark forces to be defeated. As long as there were no accidents, they would definitely be able to annihilate the dark forces. This was a method that would solve everything once and for all. Yiqing Luo had to try. You're acting recklessly. Have you ever thought about your brothers? Have you ever thought about Diamo Xian? Old Man Song knew that once Yiqing Luo had decided on something, it would be hard to change her mind. His heart was burning with anxiety, but he didn't know how to stop Yiqing Luo. He could only pull out that group of people from the world group and Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo's gaze became even more resolute. It's precisely because I hope that everyone can be safe and sound, and live well, that I must think of a way to completely resolve this hidden danger. Every time, she would be passively attacked by the dark forces. Time and time again, she made the people around her risk their lives for her. She really didn't want to see such a thing happen again. Especially, she did not want to do something that she would regret for the rest of her life, after being controlled by the mysterious yin qi. This time, she was able to forcefully suppress the agitation of the mysterious yin qi. But what about next time? Could she still be so lucky? Yiqing Luo didn't dare to bet on this unknown possibility. Instead of worrying and being afraid, it would be better to settle this once and for all. Old Man Song let out a heavy sigh. This old man knew that girl. In the end, he still agreed. This old man more or less knows a little about dark spells. If you insist on taking the risk, this old man will help you. Yi Qingluo's face was tainted with a smile. Immediately, she focused and recalled Qi Yan, and she drew back into the pet space. Chapter 1653. Yi Qingluo's movements attracted the attention of the devil class's students. Long Yunjian immediately flew over as his azure blue eyes were filled with worry. Qingluo you. His words had just opened his mouth. An extremely piercingly cold wind brushed past his eyes. Yi Qingluo's fingers were like claws as she struck towards Long Yunjian's face. Long Yunjian was stunned as he had yet to regain his senses. That palm had coincidentally landed on Long Yunjian's chest. It directly sent Long Yunjian flying with one palm strike. Devil class and the others who were following closely behind held on to Long Yunjian, as their faces were filled with astonishment. Qingluo, what are you doing? Yi Qingluo didn't reply them. Her clear and charming eyes were extremely icy cold. She looked at them coldly as her voice was hoarse, and her words were unusually loud and clear. I want all of you to die. Long Yunjian's face turned pale. Those devil class's students' expressions also changed. Has Qingluo's mind been contaminated by the vermilion bird's raging flames? What's wrong with Qingluo? Right from the start, I felt that Madame Qingluo was a little strange. She even hit the class monitor. Her mind must have been contaminated. Devil class's students were filled with anxiety. Class monitor. What should we do? Vermilion bird is Madame Qingluo's war pet. How can we awaken Madame Qingluo? Long Yunjian, who had been struck by that palm, kept staring at the expressionless Yi Qingluo, who was filled with murderous intent. Suddenly his azure blue eyes flashed slightly. He raised his hand and stopped the devil class's students from asking questions. Long Yunjian's prestige as the class monitor had not diminished because of Yi Qingluo's existence. He had just raised his hand. The devil class's students who were whispering behind him immediately shut their mouths. Stay further away from her. Long Yunjian's icy cold voice rang. Devil class's students were all stunned. Right now, Yi Qingluo obviously looked like something was wrong. Shouldn't they be thinking of ways to recall Yi Qingluo's mind? Abandon Yi Qingluo and stay further away from her? Wasn't this the meaning of abandoning Yi Qingluo? Devil class's students frowned as they couldn't listen to Long Yunjian's words and stay further away from Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo's cold gaze swept past the group of students. Her pink lips curled up slightly. A cold arc blossomed on her face, revealing an extremely flirtatious yet murderous smile. Her palm wind moved, attacking towards Long Yunjian's direction once again. Retreat! Long Yunjian bellowed as he led the devil class students to retreat quickly. At this moment, the students from the various academies, who had finished dealing with the remaining dark forces, were stunned when they saw this scene. It wasn't easy for him to survive in the face of death. Why was it Yi Qingluo being contaminated and losing her rationality again? Yi Qingluo's attack was still continuing, but every time, the devil class's students would coincidentally avoid it. After a few rounds of pursuit, Yi Qingluo stopped her attacks. His cold eyes were filled with dense killing intent. Die, all of you must die. That hoarse voice was extremely loud. The faces of the devil class students gradually turned pale. Listen to class monitor, let's leave this place first. Yen Xiaoyi took a look at Yi Qingluo's chilly expression and looked at Long Yunjian. She clenched her teeth, not knowing what was going on with Yi Qingluo. It was better to listen to Long Yunjian first and stay away from Yi Qingluo. Otherwise, if Yi Qingluo hurt any one of them, by the time Yi Qingluo regained her consciousness, she would definitely be like Long Yunjian. Continuing to feel guilty, devil class's students hesitated for some time. In the end, they still left Yi Qingluo's boundary. Chapter 1654. Ha ha ha. Yi Qingluo has already been controlled by us dark forces. If we can't live, then all of you can forget about living too. Yi Qingluo, that pervert, she will absolutely avenge us dark forces, killing all of you bunch of young lads. Ha ha ha. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by someone you trust? Those few people from the dark forces who were still alive saw Yiqing Luo's state, and all of them ran towards her direction, as though they were escaping for their lives. Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade used a dark secret method to seal the profound yin qi. The entire dark forces knew about this matter. At this moment, seeing Yiqing Luo actually laid her hands on their own brothers, they knew this was absolutely because of the profound yin qi in Yiqing Luo's body. That also meant that Yiqing Luo was now one of them. With Yiqing Luo that pervert around, this bunch of young lads would definitely die. But those few people from the dark forces had just dashed in front of Yiqing Luo. They saw Yiqing Luo's fingertips dancing. Like an excited spirit, a red glow flashed past her slender fingertips. The glower flame fan stirred up thousands of waves as it struck towards those few people from the dark forces. Those people had barely escaped from the siege of those students after experiencing a narrow escape from death. At this moment, all their thoughts were on Yiqing Luo. Who would have expected that Yiqing Luo would actually make a move against them? Those few people from the dark forces had yet to react. Bursts of powerful profound energy had already landed on them. They were like numerous sharp blades that surged like the tide and devoured everything about them. They didn't even have time to make a sound. Those few people from the dark forces fell limply onto the ground. Blood spurted out and they lost their breath. The students stared at this scene, as their faces alternated between green and white. They had clearly heard what the people from the Dark Coalition had just said. Yiqing Luo had already been controlled by the dark forces? That meant to say, Yiqing Luo would kill them? But why did Yiqing Luo kill those people from the dark forces? Die! Die! All of you must die! That hoarse voice was monotonous and emotionless. Yiqing Luo's eyes didn't have any radiance. His eyes were empty and cold as he stared forward. It seemed like he had really lost his mind. The faces of the students turned paler and paler. He wanted to escape, but there was a barrier set up here. They had no way out. Qing Luo. Devil class's students were filled with worry as they stared at Yiqing Luo's expressionless face, feeling heartache. They were burning with anxiety, but there was no way to awaken Yiqing Luo's consciousness. What should they do? What should he do? You can't do anything to your own brothers, even if you've already been controlled. Suddenly, a deep and cold voice filled with dense murderous intent was heard from Yiqing Luo's back. Just as the voice rang out, a figure appeared out of nowhere. That figure was extremely fast. Bringing along an extremely turbulent profound qi, he directly attacked in the direction of the devil class students. Then let me personally deal with this group of people. As his voice fell, devil class's students only felt a gust of cold wind brushing against their faces. Then, a terrifying aura came crashing down from the sky. Oh no! Get out of the way! Chapter 1655. Yen Xiaoyi immediately activated the power of her profound jade heart. Releasing all of her profound energy, she opened up a protective barrier. A mere earth profound practitioner dares to block this sacred technique? Wolf Saint Technique sneered disdainfully, not putting Yen Xiaoyi's protective barrier in his eyes. The movements of his hands didn't stop at all. Thick profound energy, swift and fierce attacks. Xiaoyi! A panicked voice reverberated through the earth. Immediately, a figure was seen, rushing over. Following that figure's sprint, the surrounding air suddenly, like flowing water, appeared with faint waves. Layer upon layer slowly stacked higher. Just as Wolf Saint Technique's attack fell. Boom! That turbulent air, in a split second, turned into a huge wave, surging high up. The violent profound energy revealed a terrifying power that made one's heart tremble. Ah! With a scream, Wolf Saint Technique spat out a mouthful of blood. His body, under that wave of air, flew backwards, landing heavily on the ground. Wolf Saint Technique rolled a few times on the ground, finally crashing into a huge rock. The wound on his back that hadn't healed yet, and a new injury, fresh blood, instantly dyed the ground under Wolf Saint Technique. But at this moment, no one paid attention to the direction of Wolf Saint Technique. Everyone's gaze was focused on the Devil class students. In front of the Devil class students, a youth dressed in a green and white uniform, tightly hugging a slender girl. Both arms, tightly wrapped around her waist. That muscular body slightly trembled. His entire body was emitting a terrifying aura. Who was that? Students from the Devil class? The students of the various academies were filled with curiosity, and Yin Xiaoyi, who was tightly hugged at this moment, stiffened on the spot. Her body tensed up. Her breathing suddenly stopped. Between her nose lingered that familiar scent that made her about to cry. Xiao Jin. It's Xiao Jin. He's back. Back to her side. Both hands subconsciously wrapped around his waist. Bit by bit tightened, until her body completely rubbed into his embrace. Are you stupid? Whenever I'm not by your side, you do stupid things. However, this tenderness did not last for long. Yin Xiaoyi heard the man's angry voice. Xiao Jin pried Yin Xiaoyi's body apart. His eyes filled with rage as he glared at her fiercely. Who do you think you are? An impregnable fortress? You're only at the earth profound realm. And you want to use your own body to fight the wolf saint technique head-on? The more he spoke, the more furious his voice became. The slender fingers on Yin Xiaoyi's shoulder gradually increased their strength. Yin Xiaoyi furrowed her brows in pain as she sucked in a breath of cold air. This pain also caused Yin Xiaoyi's consciousness to gradually regain clarity. His rebuke. She heard it all. He felt that it was extremely ridiculous. Yin Xiaoyi's heart, which had been agitated because of Xiao Jin's return, gradually calmed down and calmed down. Xiao Jin did not return to her side. Xiao Jin did not belong to her. Closing her eyes, the expression on Yin Xiaoyi's face had already recovered its usual calmness. Whether I'm stupid or not, and what I want to do, has nothing to do with you. She looked up and met Xiao Jin's eyes. Maybe the timing of his appearance was too coincidental. Or maybe the current backlight was too coincidental. Xiao Jin's unprepossessing face was reflected in Yin Xiaoyi's pupils. He actually appeared to be extremely tall and handsome. That deep contour faintly revealed a suffocating handsomeness. She was stunned. Chapter 1656. After a while, Yin Xiaoyi retracted the absent-mindedness in her eyes. She despised herself in her heart. Even at this moment, she still had feelings for Xiao Jin. Obviously, that face totally did not fit her aesthetic standards. Obviously, she had already decided from the bottom of her heart not to have feelings for him. But the moment she saw Xiao Jin, her heart that had been quiet for a long time, completely messed up. Ever since that day, when Xiao Jin saw Shi Shanglan's investigation information, he was alone, as though he had vanished from the face of the earth. He left just like that. Had he ever thought about her feelings? Had he ever thought about the feelings of the students in Devil class? Even in the Flaming Lair, such a dangerous place, he had never appeared. Until now, when he finally appeared here. So sorry. Xiao Jin looked at that pair of calm, beautiful eyes, and a dull pain surged from the bottom of his heart. His reprimanding expression, the anger in his eyes, suddenly disappeared. His hands froze. He quickly let go of Yin Xiaoyi's waist. Then he took a few steps back, widening the distance between them. When Xiao Jin's apology fell into Yin Xiaoyi's ears, it was like a sharp needle, fiercely stabbing into her heart. He couldn't wait to leave her side, not daring to have any contact with her. It was more like he was mocking her feelings for him, mocking that she hadn't fallen for him. She was really a fool. A complete and utter fool. This man. He had never loved you from the start, why bother? Really, why did you have to do this? Closing her eyes, she forced the tears that welled up in her eyes down. Yin Xiaoyi's breathing gradually calmed down. Following that, she opened her eyes again, her gaze calm. Why are you here? A large number of people from the dark forces are already rushing towards this direction. I followed the overlord here. Xiao Jin clenched his fists, trying his best to make his voice sound calm. He couldn't show a little his heartache because of Yin Xiaoyi's coldness, Yin Xiaoyi's alienation towards him. Wasn't this the result he wanted? He took a deep breath softly. Let's leave the Flaming Lair first. Not only this place, There are arrays set up. The entire flaming lair has signs of arrays. Dizun. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes lit up. Now was not the time to worry about love affairs. Yiqing Luo had yet to regain her senses. The overlord was here, and he would definitely be able to awaken Yiqing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi raised her hand and pushed Xiao Jin away. His gaze swept across the surroundings. Sure enough, they saw a man in shimmering purple clothes, who looked like a banished immortal, walking over quickly. Dmo Xian was extremely fast. Without any pause, he headed straight towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But before he was able to stretch out his hand and pull Yiqing Luo into his embrace, when he met with Yiqing Luo's chilly eyes, his footsteps slowly came to a halt. He and Yiqing Luo stood face to face. Their eyes met. No one spoke. Master Dizun, Qing Luo has lost her senses, and only you can wake her up. Yan Xiaoyi said anxiously. The following words were stuck in his throat. She saw that behind Dmo Xian, there was a jade-green figure following closely behind. Wind chimes. Feng Ling was actually following beside Dmo Xian, recalling that not long ago, this Feng Ling brought along the Imperial Palace's granny to kill Yiqing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi was extremely hostile towards Feng Ling, the enchantment here. Only Feng Ling can break it. Dmo Xian's gaze was still on Yiqing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi blinked. The overlord was explaining to her. Chapter 1657. Hearing that extremely calm explanation, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. The cold glint in her eyes wavered for a moment. By her ears, Dmo Xian's explanation seemed to be reverberating. He directly called Feng Ling by her name. It wasn't like before, calling her Xiao Ling intimately. Was it because the reason why the Imperial Palace's granny wanted to kill her? This sweet throbbing didn't last for too long. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly thumped. Xianhe. Why was he here? He was here. Would he stop her plan? Xian definitely wouldn't bear for her to take the risk. If he knew her decision, he would definitely stop her. No. No way. She couldn't let Xian see her abnormality. Overlord, those unimportant people are not important. What's important is. Yan Xiaoyi's vision returned to Yiqing Luo. The dark forces said that Qing Luo had already been controlled by the dark forces. If we don't wake her up, we won't be able to control her. Hearing Yan Xiaoyi's anxious words, Yiqing Luo had a feeling of King that husky. She wanted to cry but no tears came out. She knew that Yan Xiaoyi was worried about her. Worried from the bottom of her bones. But could she not let Dmo Xian put his attention on her at this moment? She couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. Just at this moment, Gui Wu, Zhou Mo and 100 over-elders from the main academy rushed over. Seeing the bloody scene, and the various academy's students covered in blood, they all had a fright. Momentarily, the entire blazing flame nest fell into chaos. This was the chance. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as she took a deep look at Dmo Xian's direction. Suddenly, she turned around and leapt. That slender figure swiftly merged into the air and disappeared. Devil class's students chased up to her. Madam Qing Luo, you won't be able to catch up. Stay here and cooperate with the main academy's investigation. Dmo Xian's long peach blossom eyes squinted slightly. A chilly intent flashed in his eyes. I'll go. His words had just ended when his sleeve was tugged by someone. Feng Ling's timid face appeared in his eyes. Brother Di. Her words had yet to leave her mouth. Dmo Xian had already flung Feng Ling's hand away in extreme disgust. There was a cold glint in his eyes. Feng Ling, there are many things that I don't say, but it doesn't mean that I don't know. Your aura is on the dark forces barrier. You were the one who set it up. Windling's face turned pale. Her delicate body trembled slightly. Beiyuan. Dmo Xian's voice was tense and cold. A black figure appeared from the darkness. Tang Beiyuan stood respectfully beside Dmo Xian. Bring Feng Ling back to the Imperial Palace, and guard her strictly. Without my orders, no one is allowed to get close to her. Dmo Xian said coldly. After a pause, his gaze turned slightly cold. Including Grandma? Yes. Tang Beiyuan's expression was cold and stern. Once he said that one word, he suddenly brought out a chain from his sleeves, and without another word, he bound Feng Ling tightly. Those were profound ice shackles. It was a chain made of indestructible ice. There was no way to untie this chain at all. Feng Ling immediately panicked. With a sobbing tone, she shouted pitifully, "Brother D." But Tang Beiyuan didn't give Feng Ling a chance to continue speaking. Holding the end of the chain, she hung Feng Ling and flew out of the blazing flame nest. Chapter 1658. Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, she was already at least 1,000 meters away from that area. She concealed her presence and stopped in her tracks. She knew that Dmo Xian would definitely chase up to her. She had to get Pharaoh He to bring her to the Dark Forces main camp before Dmo Xian chased up to her. Her guess was indeed right. Pharaoh He and Wolf Saint technique had just used the dark curse to escape from her line of sight. But they didn't go far. Wolf Saint technique's coincidental appearance. It confirmed her guess. She pretended to be controlled by the profound Yin Qi and lost her mind. She intentionally made a move on the devil class's students. It was to let Pharaoh He who was hiding in the dark know that she was indeed controlled by the profound Yin Qi. Earlier, Wolf Saint technique's appearance. It was probably to test her. If she wasn't affected by the profound Yin Qi, she definitely wouldn't let Wolf Saint technique hurt the devil class's students. If she stopped it, Pharaoh He would definitely use the same curse to bring Wolf Saint technique away. Luckily, Dmo Xian and Gui Wu rushed over in time. Before she made a move, they stopped Wolf Saint technique's attack. This was considered as God approving of her plan. Yiqing Luo released her senses to the maximum as she carefully sensed the movements in the surroundings. She remembered. The direction where Pharaoh He used his curse to bring Wolf Saint technique away was this direction. Earlier, after Wolf Saint technique was sent flying by Qiao Jin, he took the opportunity to escape in this direction. The people from the Dark Forces were definitely here. In the dark, two pairs of eyes were staring unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo, who was wandering around in the dense forest. Wolf Saint technique's face was extremely pale due to excessive blood loss. Yiqing Luo, that little slut is sinister and cunning, are you sure? She is really controlled by your Pharaoh's secret technique? Pharaoh He shot a disdainful glance at Wolf Saint technique. Of course. The secret technique which I used was personally imparted by his lordship. There's absolutely no possibility of any accident. Isn't the spirit assimilating array still destroyed? Wolf Saint technique snorted in disdain. Pharaoh He's face sunk. This Pharaoh will make you convinced. Saying that, he gathered his mental power and formed a hand seal as he stared at Yiqing Luo's figure, spitting out one obscure curse after another. There's movement. The minute Pharaoh He's mental energy appeared, Yiqing Luo acutely sensed the fluctuation in the air. Her expression instantly turned solemn. Just as he was thinking of following the ripples in the air to search for Pharaoh He's location, Old Man Song's voice immediately sounded in her mind. Lass, Pharaoh He is testing you. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she searched for the fluctuation in the air and stopped her counter-detection of Pharaoh He's position. Maintain your murderous state and be a bit crazier. Old Man Song reminded. Yiqing Luo's reaction was extremely quick. Pharaoh He was hiding in the dark and wanted to use a secret technique to test if her profound heart jade had really been contaminated by the profound Yin Qi. She stopped in her tracks. His entire body suddenly released an extremely strong murderous aura. A pair of murderous eyes fiercely swept across the surroundings. She raised her hands, clenched fists, and swung at the air. It seemed extremely crazy. Kill. I want to kill him. Kill all of you, kill all of you. Yiqing Luo was like a headless fly, spinning crazily on the same spot. Pharaoh He who was in the dark saw Yiqing Luo's crazy performance and glanced at Wolf Saint technique complacently. How is it? Are you convinced? Wolf Saint technique pursed his lips tightly. Chapter 1659. Yiqing Luo's heart was on the verge of collapsing. in order to sneak into the dark forces. She really put in a lot of effort. She could even act the role of a crazy lady. This acting skill was comparable to those movie queens. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but praise herself. Just as Yiqing Luo was cursing in her heart, her face was still maintaining a crazy state. Suddenly her ears twitched. Her heart constricted. It was Ah Xian. He had indeed caught up. Damn Pharaoh he. Where on earth were they hiding at? She had already acted so well, but still refused to show herself. If Dmo Xian discovered her plan to sneak into the dark forces would fail. Perhaps the heavens had heard Yiqing Luo's wailing. Or perhaps Pharaoh he had also sensed Dmo Xian's approach. Just as Dmo Xian's presence was getting closer, Yiqing Luo only felt her body being sucked towards a direction by an extremely strong suction force. Following that, she was grabbed tightly by a strong palm. A thick and nauseating profound yin qi lingered around her nose. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone. It was Pharaoh he. You really pulled this slut over. Wolf Saint Magic's tone didn't conceal his disgust towards Yiqing Luo. Pharaoh he slanted a glance at him sarcastically. Only trash like you would worry about this and that. This Pharaoh's secret method has never failed before. The Holy Wolf technique was just lip service. In his heart, he already believed it a little. He moved his mouth and finally spat out a few words. Let's go back. Pharaoh he didn't continue arguing with Wolf Saint Magic. His fingers formed a hand seal, as he swiftly recited a string of incantations. Yiqing Luo's forelimbs were weak as she hung on Pharaoh he's hand. She suddenly felt her body shaking violently. Her vision turned black. When there was light again, Yiqing Luo discovered that she was already at the entrance of a huge palace. At the entrance of the palace, 2 guards dressed in black cloaks immediately bowed respectfully when they saw them. Wolf Saint Magic Pharaoh he. And they had just returned to the Dark Force's old nest. Pharaoh he casually threw the heavily injured Wolf Saint Law to the ground. The 2 dark guards had long been accustomed to the open and secret fights between the Pharaoh and the elders. One of them stepped forward and helped the wolf up. Go get a doctor. Wolf Saint Law was quickly carried away, whereas Yiqing Luo was dragged by Pharaoh he as they walked directly into this luxurious palace. As one of the 4 great pharaohs of the Dark Faction, Pharaoh he enjoyed great prestige in the Dark Faction. Along the way, they greeted Pharaoh Crane respectfully. No one even placed their sights on Yiqing Luo. After walking for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they finally stopped in front of a courtyard. Yiqing Luo looked at the signboard on the courtyard. A row of words were outlined in black light. Crane Palace. Crane Palace. In other words, this was Pharaoh he's palace? Yiqing Luo's vision had memorized all the details of the palace's surroundings into her mind. Perhaps it was because he was too confident in his secret technique. Pharaoh he didn't doubt Yiqing Luo at all. He shut Yiqing Luo in a secluded little room in the Crane Palace, and used a curse to lock the door tightly before leaving in a hurry. Dark Forces territory. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to let her guard down just because Pharaoh he had left. Who knew if Pharaoh he was trying to test her again? Yiqing Luo had been on high alert, maintaining the state of being controlled by him. Her nerves were stretched taut, not daring to relax. Chapter 1660. Yiqing Luo calculated the time in her heart. Close to 6 hours had passed. It should be nighttime now. She didn't know if it was because of the curse that Pharaoh he had set on the door. Not a single sound could be heard from the surroundings of this small room. The surrounding was so quiet that it was a little scary. Yiqing Luo had been maintaining a battle state in the blazing flame nest for this period of time. Yiqing Luo was already mentally exhausted. After a long time, Yiqing Luo felt her eyelids getting heavier. Not long after, she fell into a deep sleep. But after Yiqing Luo fell into a deep sleep, it was just a few breaths' time, only to see the tightly shut door slowly opening. The person who entered the room was an extremely beautiful lady. That lady's vision was immediately fixed on the young lady's face, who was sitting by the bed with her eyes closed. After seeing the young lady's stunning face clearly, the lady's pupils shot out a biting cold hatred. Yiqing Luo. Adai, don't hurt my puppet. Pharaoh he followed closely behind and stood in front of the beautiful lady. He held the lady's soft and fair hand as he stared fiercely at the person at the door. Lang Wastrel. It's said that this old man's secret art will absolutely not have any problems. Why must you waste my knockout drug? You only know how to be suspicious all day. No wonder you're unable to break through to the profound grade. Wolf Saint Magic sat on a wooden wheeled chair, and behind him was a black-robed, slightly pale-looking Yi Qing Qian. Wolf Saint Magic entered the room, and his gaze fell onto Yi Qing Luo. After ascertaining that Yi Qing Luo had indeed fallen into a deep sleep, Wolf Saint Magic then raised his malicious eyes and looked coldly at Pharaoh he. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's because of your arrogance that led to the failure of this mission. Isn't the failure all because of you? Pharaoh he harumphed coldly. If it wasn't for that troublemaker, how would the spirit assimilation array be destroyed? Yi Qing Qian was criticized and her body shrank slightly as she lowered her eyelids, not daring to say a word. Wolf Saint Magic patted the back of her hand lightly as his gaze turned cold. The spirit assimilation array was destroyed because there's a problem with your elder's ability. Just one Yi Qing Luo. Completely messed up the plan which we had prepared for several months, huh? You, Pharaoh he was exasperated. He raised his hand, and was about to rush forward to beat the Wolf Saint technique. Alright, how old are the two of you? Every time you see each other, you won't let go. Are we still going to talk about business? The butterfly saintess couldn't take it anymore. She frowned and her beautiful face was filled with annoyance. The butterfly sacred technique shook off Pharaoh he's hand and walked out of the room, while swaying her slender waist. Pharaoh he fiercely glared at Holy Wolf, then immediately put on a smile, and followed behind Holy Butterfly. Good. Adai, I won't argue with that old man. Let's talk business. Wolf Saint Technique, who was still in the room, narrowed his malicious eyes as his gaze stopped on Yi Qing Luo for some time. He then lightly patted her hand. Let's go. Yi Qing Qian responded obediently. As she pushed the Wolf Saint Technique away, Yi Qing Qian glanced sideways at Yi Qing Luo's direction. In her beautiful eyes, there was a trace of hatred and ruthlessness. She pushed the holy wolf out of the room. The door slowly closed again. In the room, it was silent once again. After a moment of silence, the young lady who was originally leaning against the side of the bed, and in deep sleep, her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Tightly she opened her eyes. Chapter 1661. Yi Qing Luo herself was an alchemist. She was extremely sensitive towards the smell of medicinal herbs. The moment the drowsiness hit her, Yi Qing Luo realized that someone had drugged her. Hence, she beat them at their own game, and pretended to fall asleep. From Wolf Saint Dharma and Pharaoh he's words. They must have something important to deal with. Or perhaps they needed to discuss. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to drug her, who was already controlled by him. There were at least 5 people who entered the room. She heard Wolf Saint Dharma and Pharaoh he's voices. And one Butterfly Saint Dharma. And one Yi Qing Jian. And the last person. Who was he? From the start till the end, that person had not spoken a single word. She remained silent for some time, as she sensed that there wasn't any fluctuation in the surrounding air. She then quietly got up and slowly walked to the door. The last people to leave were Wolf Saint Dharma and Yi Qing Jian. There wasn't any incantation on this room door. Yi Qing Luo easily opened the room door. What entered her eyes was an extremely dark long corridor. A few voices were heard from the next room. Yi Qing Luo looked around to ascertain that there wasn't anyone guarding this long corridor. She silently recited the secret method, which she had memorized in her heart. Her figure flashed in a blink of an eye. She had already silently appeared at the door of the next room. This was a blink movement secret method. It was extremely different from her own footwork. Blink movement secret method could achieve instantaneous movement under the condition of no aura fluctuation. And her set of footwork relied on one word: fast. The faster her footwork, the more violent the turbulence in the air. The group of people in the next room were all well-known figures from the dark forces. Any fluctuation in the air was unable to escape their senses. Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to take the risk. Using the blink movement secret method, as long as the timing was stable, no one would discover it. Then no one would discover it. Nearing the door, she could clearly hear Wolf Saint Dharma's angry voice coming from the room. He trash. This plan was planned by me and that Heavenly Academy's trash director 2 months ago. For this plan, how much manpower and resources have I wasted? My Wolf Saint Dharma's forces have been annihilated. Wolf Saint Dharma slammed the table heavily. This is a foolproof plan. If it succeeds, we can escape completely. If it wasn't for the fact that your elder's party was so useless and couldn't even protect a formation, would this plan have failed? Do you still want to push all the blame to me? Useless Crane, let me tell you. The failure of the plan is a problem of your elder society's ability. It has nothing to do with me. Bang bang bang. There was the sound of things being rummaged through. Yi Qing Luo made use of that explosion, and her fingers moved slightly opening that tightly shut window. Through the gap, Yi Qing Luo saw Pharaoh He overturn the table and pointed angrily at the Wolf Saint technique. This Pharaoh has exhausted all my energy to save you from Yi Qing Luo's hands. Don't you dare to push all the blame for the failure of the plan on this Pharaoh. Lang Xingfa's face instantly turned ashen. His sinister eyes stared coldly at Pharaoh He, his eyes filled with killing intent. Help. This word completely provoked the Wolf Saint technique, especially to save him from that slut Yi Qing Luo. Wasn't this indirectly saying that he wasn't even comparable to that silly lass Yi Qing Luo? Chapter 1662. Pharaoh He had specially emphasized the words 15 years old. Wolf Saint Magic's face darkened. His 5 fingers clenched the armrest of the wooden wheelchair, leaving a long mark. Pharaoh He, you're wrong. Yi Qing Qian couldn't bear to see her lover get angry, so she caressed Wolf Saint Magic's chest and raised her beautiful eyes to look at Pharaoh He. The moment she opened her mouth, Pharaoh He stared at her in disgust. Who do you think you are? Just a slut who relies on spreading her legs to climb up. This Pharaoh and Saint Magic are talking. Do you have the right to interrupt? Saying that, he glanced at Wolf Saint Magic scornfully. You've been in the dark forces for such a long time, yet you still don't know the dark forces rules. This Pharaoh wants to see how long you can protect her. Yi Qing Qian pursed her red lips as she lowered her head with reddened eyes. Wolf Saint Magic frowned and reached out to hold Yi Qing Qian's hand. He trash. Do you only know how to shoot at women now? Enough. Both of you shut up. The beautiful lady sitting in the corner stood up irritably, quarreling over and over again. Just a few words. Is there any meaning in quarreling? Adai, don't be angry. I won't talk anymore. Pharaoh He immediately came forward attentively. Butterfly Saint Magic glanced coldly at Pharaoh He, then looked at Wolf Saint Magic. His lordship's seal is only lacking the last 2 hurdles before the seal can be completely lifted. Speaking of his lordship, the flames between Wolf Saint Magic and Pharaoh He were restrained. This time the plan to absorb a large number of souls has failed. The day of his lordship's lifting will be delayed for a period of time. Butterfly Saint Magic's words made the room fall into silence. This failure was not only about not being able to obtain a large number of souls. It had also completely exposed the dark forces' motive in Nirvana Realm. Nirvana Realm would also raise their vigilance and think of ways to resist the dark forces' attack. It would not be as easy as before for them to obtain a large number of clean souls of young cultivators. No matter which one of you wants to get away or push the blame to someone, when his lordship regains consciousness, you will all accept his lordship's punishment. The Butterfly Saint technique looked at the 2 of them. So it's useless for the 2 of you to push the blame to each other. Pharaoh He nodded repeatedly and answered yes. Anyone could tell that he was interested in the sacred butterfly technique from his attentive manner. The Wolf Saint lowered his head and did not refute. He did not refute, which meant that he agreed with the Butterfly Saint technique. Instead of debating whether it's right or wrong, why don't we carefully think about the cause and effect? Think clearly about why the soul assimilating formation failed. Suddenly, a clear voice that was as gentle as the wind resounded in the room. That voice entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Yiqing Luo's body instantly stiffened. A trace of astonishment flashed through her eyes. She focused her gaze and looked through the gap again, searching for the figure of the person who spoke. Sure enough, beside the sacred butterfly technique sat a man in a brown robe woven with gold. The man's face was like jade, and the corners of his mouth hooked into a cordial smile. He looked very much like a graceful young master. That face. Yiqing Luo was no stranger to it. Shi Clan's young master Shi Shanglan, Yan Xiaoyi's fiancé. It was actually him. He was indeed related to the dark forces. He got close to Yan Xiaoyi indeed with ill intentions. Earlier in the room where she was locked up, the fifth person that she sensed was Shi Shanglan. What was the relationship between him and the dark forces? Chapter 1663. Young Master, she is right. Rather than arguing about right or wrong, why don't we find out the reason why our plan failed? The anger on Butterfly Saint Mage's face was immediately replaced by a smile. Her eyes were filled with affection as she looked at Shi Shanglan coquettishly. But Shi Shanglan didn't show any signs of being moved by her goodwill. Shi Shanglan's face was still gentle like water. The smile on his lips was distant, but not impolite. Pharaoh's face sunk slightly and revealed some displeasure. But he didn't flare up like how he did with Wolf Saint Mage. Instead, he suppressed his anger and echoed Shi Shanglan's words. Young Master, Shi's words are reasonable. I can't be bothered to argue with that old man. This scene made Yiqing Luo, who was hiding in the corner to eavesdrop, felt slightly surprised. Weren't the dark forces divided into two factions? The Lord, who was also the King of Darkness, was the leader. Then there was the Guardian and Elder factions. Above the Guardian and Elder factions were the Saint Mage and Pharaoh. Yiqing Luo could see clearly how arrogant Pharaoh, he was in the dark forces. It could be said that Pharaoh, he was second only to one, and above everyone else in the dark forces. His attitude toward Shi Shanglan was obviously respectful. Pharaoh, he admired Butterfly Saint Mage, and Butterfly Saint Mage gave such an obvious, suggestive look to Shi Shanglan. Pharaoh, he was actually indifferent. It showed that Pharaoh, he didn't dare to become enemies with Shi Shanglan. What was Shi Shanglan's identity? Even Pharaoh, he was afraid of him. The atmosphere in the house eased up a lot because of Shi Shanglan's words. Wolf Saint Mage remained silent for a long time before he spoke. Speaking of the reason why we failed, it made me think of something. His sinister eyes looked at Pharaoh. Trash he. Do you still remember what you swore when you set up the soul assimilation array? Old Wolf, do you still want to quarrel with me? Pharaoh's face turned cold as he stared back at Wolf Saint Mage angrily. The Wolf Shengfa looked at him and said indifferently, You said that once the soul assimilating array is set up, no one in the Nirvana realm can destroy the formation eye of the soul assimilating array, so our people don't need to specially guard the formation eye. Otherwise, the location of the formation eye will be exposed. F*CK. Wolf Trash. Do you have to F*King go against me? Come on. I'll accompany you. Pharaoh, he rushed toward the Wolf Saint Law furiously. He stop right now. The butterfly sacred technique reached out and grabbed Pharaoh Crane's collar, forcefully pulling him into the chair. You are not allowed to speak without my permission. Pharaoh Crane's face turned red, but looking at the serious expression on the butterfly saint technique's face, he could not help but shut his mouth. The butterfly sacred technique looked at the wolf sacred technique. He is right. The soul assimilating array is an ancient dark secret technique, a sinister technique that is not tolerated by the heavenly Tao. In a lower realm like the Nirvana realm, no one would know the method to destroy the array. She pondered for a moment, and a cold glint appeared in her beautiful eyes. Even if we find the eye of the formation, no one knows how to destroy it. What Wolf Saint technique means is, there are people from the lower realm helping Yiqing Luo. Shi Shanglan could tell what Wolf Saint technique was implying. As soon as these words came out, the four of them exchanged glances, and their faces instantly turned pale. Indeed, if there were no people from the lower realm helping Yiqing Luo, how would Yiqing Luo know how to use the blood of the caster to extinguish the array eye? If it wasn't for the fact that the people from the lower realm had told Yiqing Luo the method to destroy the array, how was it possible for Yiqing Luo to destroy this array so easily? Chapter 1664. Shi Shanglan's expression instantly turned grave. His handsome brows frowned slightly. If there's no one from the lower realm to teach her, she shouldn't be able to find the location of the array eye. He paused for a moment as his gentle eyes swept past the few people in the room. That gaze was as gentle as the wind. However, the few of them felt an extremely cold glint in their eyes. That kind of chill that emanated from the bones. It made the few of them feel a thump in their hearts. Wolf St. Law's concerns. I will personally investigate clearly. If there's really someone from the lower realm around Yiqing Luo, I will return to the island and invite father to leave the island. Upon hearing Shi Shanglan's words, their faces instantly revealed a joyous expression. With young Master Shi's help, this matter will definitely be settled very quickly. Butterfly St. Law's eyes were filled with affection and admiration. Pharaoh he looked at Butterfly St. Law's expression and shifted his gaze away unhappily. He clenched his fists and eased the tense expression on his face as he gave a flattering smile. Yes, young Master Shi is willing to help. Next time, our plan will definitely succeed. Butterfly St. Law snorted lightly as her tone couldn't conceal her disgust. Yiqing Luo, that little slut. The speed of her advancement is so fast. It must be because of the person behind her. As long as we get rid of that person, what kind of waves can that little slut create? The few of them complimented again. Yiqing Luo, who was squatting at the corner, frowned tightly. Shi Shanglan addressed himself as young master earlier. What young master was referring to? The reason why these few dark forces leaders were so respectful towards Shi Shanglan. It was probably because of the father behind Shi Shanglan. What was Shi Shanglan's identity? Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in thought. In the room, Yiqing Jian, who had been silent all this while, opened her mouth softly. What if the person behind Yiqing Luo is DMO Xian? The few people's compliments stopped abruptly. Several pairs of eyes turned towards Yiqing Jian in unison. Wolf St. Law also glanced sideways at Yiqing Jian, who was standing beside him as he frowned, as though he was annoyed with her for opening her mouth. Yiqing Qian faced their gazes and her expression remained unchanged. Her red lips curled upwards as a smile curled up as she spoke in a warm voice. Rumor has it that Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian from the Imperial Palace have an intimate relationship. This point, I have indeed witnessed it with my own eyes. After a pause, she was satisfied to see the deep meaning in everyone's eyes. She then continued. Originally, my fourth sister had already dug away Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade, completely turning her into a waste. But unfortunately, on the day that her profound heart jade was dug out, she turned from a waste into a cultivator. Not only did she force me to retreat, even that father of mine, Three Springs Sect's patriarch, wasn't Yiqing Luo's opponent. Later on, I asked Yuchiya about what happened that day. What's the matter? Butterfly Saint Technique couldn't stand Yiqing Qian's purposely keeping them in suspense as she urged. Yiqing Qian paused after each word. That day, Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade was dug out, and she was forced to drink a strong medicinal soup. In the process of rebelling against Yuchiya, she seized DMO Xian. Take DMO Xian hostage? How could this be? In this world, only their lord had this ability. Who could hold DMO Xian hostage? Chapter 1665. Shi Shanglan pondered for a moment, then slowly nodded. He recalled that after the interclass competition in the Heavenly Academy, when Yiqing Luo came to the Shi family's courtyard, there was a man who followed beside her. A man with a strong sense of presence. It should be DMO Xian. Other than DMO Xian, no one else had such a strong aura. If that person was really DMO Xian. In addition, the Imperial Palace had been attacking the dark forces during this period of time. Yiqing Qian's words, 90%, were right. Everyone could see that. How much did DMO Xian care about Yiqing Luo? I will return to the island first to investigate this matter. Xishang Lan's expression was solemn. He stood up and cupped his fists at the few people. The few of them immediately stood up and sent Xishang Lan to the door. Yiqing Luo, who was at the door, immediately used her blink and returned to the room, where she was locked up in the moment Xishang Lan stood up. The sound of footsteps could be heard outside the door. Soon after, the footsteps gradually faded away. They should have sent him out of the Crane Palace. Soon after, the footsteps of a few people gradually approached. Yiqing Luo leaned against the side of the bed and continued to pretend to be asleep. He could clearly hear a few people grumbling outside the door. They were all silently scolding Xishang Lan for using his power to bully others. After grumbling for a while, the few of them passed by the room where Yiqing Luo was locked up. Pharaoh He's footsteps suddenly paused. Although the mission this time has failed, this pharaoh has brought back Yiqing Luo, this profound heart jade's vessel. I believe that it can also remove the Lord over God's seal in advance. Wolf Saint Technique scoffed lightly. Even if we make use of Yiqing Luo's vessel physique to transfer profound energy to the Overlord God in advance, but to remove the seal, we still need a young and clean young man's spirit. As long as the Lord Master God's profound strength is replenished, he can temporarily wake up. When the time comes, we will naturally listen to our Lord's arrangements and proceed with the next step of the plan. Pharaoh He glanced at him coldly. What? Seeing that I, the Pharaoh, can make up for my mistakes, you feel unbalanced? We're all working for the Lord. What's the difference between you and me? The butterfly sacred technique couldn't take it anymore and interrupted their argument. Ahi, your idea isn't bad. If we can make the Lord God awake for a short while, we'll be able to get instructions for our future actions. When Pharaoh Crane received the sacred butterfly technique's praise, he immediately went forward. Adai also thinks that my method is good, right? All right. I'll bring Yiqing Luo that slut to the dark sacred region now to awaken the Overlord. As he spoke, Pharaoh Crane pushed open the tightly shut door. Yiqing Luo's heart twitched violently. Darkness Sanctum? What is that place? She heard Pharaoh Crane's approaching footsteps. She could also smell the auras of those people who were already close to her. Yiqing Luo calmed her breathing. She felt a hand reaching out to her. Suddenly, the Wolf Saint Law's voice came from the door again. The Darkness Sanctuary is the place where his lordship is sealed. Are you sure it's safe to bring her there? Even now you still doubt my secret technique? Pharaoh He was clearly enraged. Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart had already been completely contaminated by the profound yin qi. Under his secret technique, there was no way for her to regain her senses. The Wolf Saint Law had repeatedly doubted if Yiqing Luo was really controlled by Lao AI. Wasn't this questioning his ability? Chapter 1666. Pharaoh He swiftly conjured a hand seal. One by one, complicated incantations were spat out from his mouth. Oh no! Was he testing her again? She wasn't under Pharaoh He's control. How would she know what order Pharaoh He had given her? Yiqing Luo immediately called out to Old Man's song in her heart. Lass, quick! Get up and kill Wolf Saint Technique. Old Man's song's reminder rang in her mind. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Following Old Man Song's instructions, her figure suddenly moved and sprinted towards Wolf Saint Technique's direction. Her palms flipped, and her palm chi was like a rainbow. Slut! Wolf Saint Technique's expression changed drastically as he raised his sleeves and waved out a burst of profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo's figure paused as she slowly raised her head. A pair of charming eyes, empty and cold, without a single bit of emotion. Her pink lips trembled slightly. After a while, she spat out a hoarse but exceptionally clear word. Kill. Following that, Yiqing Luo wasn't afraid of death, as she faced the profound yin qi of the Wolf Saint Technique, and once again attacked towards the direction of the Wolf Saint Technique. Enough! Enough! Wolf Saint Technique believes that Yiqing Luo has been controlled by Tao Wu. Quickly stop. Yiqing Qian saw that Yiqing Luo was about to rush over. Her eyes flashed and suddenly rushed to the front of Wolf Saint Technique's wooden wheelchair. helping Wolf Saint technique to block Yiqing Luo's attack. Uft! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Yiqing Qian's mouth. Her body went limp as she fell into Wolf Saint technique's arms. Behind her, Yiqing Luo looked at Wolf Saint technique expressionlessly, her gaze filled with murderous intent. Kill. Kill. Her body stiffened as she approached Wolf Saint technique once again. Wolf Saint technique hugged the injured lady in his arms tightly, his face ashen. Enough. I believe you. Pharaoh he delightedly cancelled his finger gesture and waved at Yiqing Luo. All right, come back. Yiqing Luo's attack stopped abruptly. She immediately turned around and walked to Pharaoh he's side as she stood upright. Now, I'll take her to the darkness sacred region. Do you still have any objections? Pharaoh he looked at Holy Wolf's ashen face and was secretly pleased. No problem, no problem. I know that no one can surpass your secret skill except for his lord. Seeing that the flames of war between the two were about to ignite again, the butterfly sacred technique immediately stepped forward and patted Pharaoh he's shoulder. Pharaoh Crane's face was filled with pride after obtaining the goddess' approval. However, Lang Xingfa's expression grew increasingly ugly. He raised his eyes. His sinister eyes were filled with a treacherous cold light. It was as if he wanted to teach Pharaoh he a lesson. Butterfly Saint technique was well aware of Yiqing Qian's position in Wolf Saint technique's heart. She immediately pulled Pharaoh he's arm and said softly, I'll accompany you to bring Yiqing Luo to the dark sacred region. With the company of a goddess. Naturally, Pharaoh Crane was overjoyed. Calling out to Yiqing Luo, he happily followed behind the butterfly saint technique and left the room. Wolf Xingfa's face darkened as he lowered his head to look at the pale-faced woman lying feebly in his arms. There was a vicious look in his eyes. His slender fingers clasped Yiqing Qian's lower jaw tightly. In front of this saint technique, you occasionally play some little tricks. This saint technique pampers you and allows you to do as you please, but... His eyes turned cold. His fingers suddenly relaxed as he gently caressed her seductive face. The vicious look in his eyes became extremely thick at this moment. But if you dare to use your own body as a bargaining chip to please me, I will personally destroy this body of yours. Yiqing Qian's petite body trembled slightly. A sliver of disbelief surfaced on her pale face. This sentence sounded like he was concerned about her body. He couldn't bear for her to get injured just to block his attack. But you're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.